Hey, welcome everybody to the Bret Boone Podcast Live World Series Watch Party. I'm Rich Herrera from the Infinity Sports Network. That's Bret Boone, as we've taken over half of the Odyssey assets to get ready for World Series, the 120th Fall Classic between the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Welcome to everybody watching us on YouTube, on the Infinity Sports Network, on the Odyssey channel, and WFAN in New York. As we're going to sit here, we have some special guests scheduled to join us today. Bret Boone, Rich Herrera. We're going to sit around and watch baseball with you today, Booney.
Rich, this is different, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. I got the I'm waiting for the family photo. We've got a bunch of Boones at the game, just not Papa, not Dad, not me.
Not Bret.
The boys are up there, Mom's up there, so they're getting fired up. Can you guys hear too much of my TV in the background?
No, I got you. We're good. And we're inviting everybody to join us here on YouTube. We're going to watch the game. We have some special guests that'll be joining us throughout the evening. So sit back and relax. Again, this is second screen content. So if you're listening to WFAN and John and Susan doing the game, or you're watching on Fox, you can have us on your iPad or your phone and watch the game along with us. We'll take your comments. You can ask questions, and we have some very special guests that are going to join us throughout the evening watching Game 1 of the World Series. All right, so let's talk about this, Booney. A very touching tribute to Fernando Valenzuela to start the World Series. No first pitch. In fact, it was Oral Hershiser standing out there, and instead of having someone throw the first pitch, they put the ball at the mound with Fernando Valenzuela's number 34 behind the bump, and they stood there and had a moment of celebration, is the best way that I could think of it, for Fernando Valenzuela. And a lot of people watching this game were thinking about El Toro Fernando, who meant so much to the Dodgers, so much to baseball.
Fernando is, I played in a golf tournament with him a few years ago. I didn't really know Fernando. I played against him a little bit. But I remember as a kid in '81 when he kind of took Major League Baseball by storm, and the big guy coming from Mexico with the screwball, and nobody else had a screwball. It was him. It was Tug McGraw. But other than that, you hadn't heard of the screwball, and pretty awesome. What an impact he made on the Dodgers, the game of baseball, and like I said, later in my career, I faced him.
Oh, you did?
He didn't throw the screwball anymore. He's throwing me cutters. I couldn't get a hit off him. I think I'm like 3 for 15 lifetime. But yeah, he will be missed. And what a life he led, and what a career he had, and especially the impact early. Nobody had ever seen anything like him. So, condolences to the Valenzuela family. And yeah, like I said, great Dodger. He'll be missed.
And all the Dodger fans, so maybe a little bit of extra motivation for the fans at Chavez Ravine tonight. All right, so help take us inside. You've done this before. I broadcast World Series games before, but you actually were there on the field. Tell me what that's like while they're lining up on both sides, and the trainers are out there, and the backups are out there, and then you're standing in the dugout waiting to get introduced.
These are cool parts, because this season it gets to be, baseball 162. It gets to be long. So you get through the rigors of spring training, you get to opening day, and you get to line up on opening day. And it's cool because it's the start of something. You just want to go out. You don't want to embarrass yourself. I always thought game 2 was opening day for me. If I can get through game 1 without embarrassing myself, it was great. Then if you're lucky enough, you make an all-star team, you get to do the lineup again. And then in the postseason, when you get out in the line, but it's a little different. It feels different in the postseason. I think it's interesting watching these two teams go out at East Coast, West Coast. I played postseason games at Dodger Stadium, and I played postseason games in the Bronx. Completely different. Dodger Stadium, Southern Cal, good weather, short sleeves, light, bright, birds chirping. I'll tell you what, New York's spooky. You go to the Bronx, and that dark sky and that wind, it's a little bit scary. I put it this way. You can close your eyes and you know where you're at when you're playing postseason baseball at Yankee Stadium, at least the old one. I never played at the new, but yeah, this is going to be, it's quite a matchup, and I think pretty evenly matched.
So I want to hear from fans throughout the evening. So we have the chat going on. You can comment on YouTube. We want to hear your questions. You want to talk to Booney and some of our special guests that we're going to have coming up on the show tonight. Feel free to comment, go back and forth. So I'll just throw this out at everybody. Bret, I just want to see, for those as you tune in, and I'll throw this out throughout the game tonight, I want to know, do I have more Yankee fans watching? Do I have more Dodger fans watching? And I'm going to ask everybody today, go on the record, put your name on it, call your shot. Who's the MVP of the World Series? And Bret, I'll give you a minute to think about that.
Yeah,
We've got so many stars in this ball game.
All right,
I can go anywhere. All right, who do you got for the MVP?
You know, not the way the pitching's going in the postseason. Been a lot of bullpen games. The game's different in 2024. You've got, you know, I say this all the time. A lot of finances are put in the bullpen. In my day, the bullpen guys were the guys that weren't good enough to be starters. That's different. It's a different culture. I'm thinking of the series where Randy Johnson took over, a Madison Bumgarner took over, and they were going to pitch 3 times in the series. I look at this matchup, and my key was Garrett Cole's got to be Garrett Cole. He's got to be that 2023 Cy Young Garrett Cole. If that's the case, I think the Yankees win the series. I'm going with long shot. I think Vegas odds are 25-1. I'm going with Garrett Cole MVP.
Garrett Cole
is
MVP.
A long shot.
All right. We'll put it in the chat over here if you guys want to comment, and we'll ask this throughout the night. Give us your game one thought. Who's going to be the MVP of the World Series? I mean, both of these teams, Bret, have so much in common. We talked about it on the podcast today. If you think about it, Dave Roberts, who you know, and your brother, who obviously you know, we'll talk about Aaron throughout the game. Both of them were sitting on the hot seat as we got ready for the World Series. I was wondering at times where people were calling, screaming into WFAN for Aaron's head, would he survive another season? Dave Roberts, same thing. I mean, for a guy that's gotten to 4 of the last 8 World Series, halfway through the season, people are starting to grumble about, is Dave Roberts the guy to get us there, or is Dave Roberts the guy that can win the whole darn thing?
Well, you hear that all the time. You hear grumblings all the time. You hear background. You hear whispers. That's necessarily not coming from the people that make those decisions. That's made by fans. It's sports writers. It's a
talk
story.
Talk show hosts.
It's a story. I've been hearing since Aaron took over the Yankees. I hear it all the time. Everybody calling for Aaron's head. Oh, they lost 4 in a row. They won 3 in a row. Not a big deal. I didn't look at it that way, but I can see the theme. I can see the thought process of, yes, they put a lot of money into that Dodgers organization. They got a World Series in the COVID shortened year. But other than that, they haven't. Well, you got to take into consideration what's going on. Dave Roberts has a great roster, star-studded roster, but he doesn't have a Clayton Kershaw. He doesn't have their number 1 guy, which is a Glass now. He's on the IL, missed the end of the season. Walker Buehler coming back from Tommy John surgery is not the Walker Buehler we're used to seeing in 2021. He's still coming back from that arm injury. So I don't think it's really that fair. Yeah, if everybody's healthy and they don't win, somebody's got to get fired. But you got to look at it realistically. You got to look at your roster. You got to look at the health of your roster to see how much is it your fault. On Aaron's side, I was happy for Aaron when he clinched. I know how passionate he is. I know being in New York, you're on the hot seat all the time, and as a brother, I don't worry about Aaron when people start talking, because I know he's a big boy. He's been there. He's done that. He's heard it as a player. So he knows what it's like to be on the hot seat. I was just it was a sense of relief for him when they clinched. I made it to the World Series as a manager, and I was just kind of a proud brother and happy for Aaron.
So I have to ask, who got the Boone family tickets for tonight?
Aaron Boone. I've been carrying this family for a long time. I've been carrying this family for about time someone else steps up. No, Aaron's taking care of him. He got 3 of the boys. 3 of the boys are going. His son's coming over from Arizona. We got Mama Boone. We got the matriarch headed up there and rounding them up at the hotel. So I'm glad they're there. Actually, I think a late entry. I think Savannah Boone's there as well.
Okay, so your mom, Sue Boone, is there.
Sue Boone's there. I told you the only 2 Boones at home are Bob Boone and Bret Boone.
Okay, all right.
I had to come on this thing with you.
So your little brother's got plenty of people there rooting for him. This is going to be fun. I don't know if you saw this, that the UCLA Bruin football team gave a little shout out to Dave Roberts for the good luck in the game today. And then the University of Southern California, I don't know about this. I mean, the batting cages at USC are named after the Boone family, and USC gave a shout out to. I sent you a text. Gave a shout out to Aaron and a Dodger.
Pitching coach for
the
Dodgers.
Mark Pryor.
Pryor. He's a well, you gotta spread it around. You can't be one-sided. There's a Trojan, the skipper of the Yankees, pitching coach for the Dodgers. Killed two birds with one stone. That's what I think is cool about this series too. I've been doing some shows today, and they've been asking me, what about this matchup? There's been a lot of scrutiny, I think, of the postseason. Is it right? Do the best teams get there? I think a year ago we saw Arizona barely get to the postseason. They're playing in the World Series. Texas Rangers, although they were great and probably the best offense in baseball, nobody expected those teams to meet and for the Texas Rangers ultimately to be the World Series champions. So it's out there. Is it the right formula? Me as a player, I've talked about this a lot. Me as a player, I don't like it. I think it cheapens the postseason. It's much easier to get in. Me as an analyst, me as an X-ball player, from an entertainment value, a fan, I love this format, Rich. It's like March Madness. I get to watch great baseball all month. I'm wrong all the time on my predictions, and I think it's great. But I look at this matchup. Last year was different. This year, Yankees go 94-68. Best record in the AL. They're sitting in the World Series. Dodgers go 98-64. Best record in all of baseball. They're in the World Series. So for the people out there saying, does this formula work this year, 2024? The two best teams in baseball are in the World Series.
So, again, we're getting started here as the game gets going. The Yankees taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. So give me some of the intangibles that you're going to look at for the World Series.
Well, I think you're going to have to see guys tonight. Perfect with Flaherty starting. He's coming off a horrible start. He had a good start against, I forget who it was. His first start might have been against the Mets. He went 7 innings. They pitched a shutout, the Dodgers. His next game was not good. His last outing was about as bad as you could want to ever think it could happen. So he's going to be a key, is because I don't think they match up. I don't think Garrett Cole Flaherty is a matchup. I don't think they can match Garrett Cole. It's going to be interesting to watch Flaherty and the starting pitchers. Does Doc Roberts go back to the bullpen games? Bullpen games are great. I was listening to John Smoltz, and he said, bullpen games are either really good or really bad. How long can you pitch with a bullpen? Can you win a World Series? Well, the Dodgers got through 2 rounds of the postseason using the bullpen, and it's worked. Can it work in the World Series? I don't know. I think the keys are the guys you don't think of. Everybody's going to be looking at Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. I think that's second tier, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. But the Muncies of the world, the Teoscar Hernandez, who had an MVP caliber season this year, and for the Yankees, the Stantons, the Jazz Chisholm, who I think when Jazz Chisholm came over from at the trading deadline, I think the Yankees got more than they bargained for. I think they got a better player than they thought they were getting. He was a big help down the stretch for the Yankees, but in the postseason, especially the last round, he's kind of been absent. Those guys are going to have to hit.
So a couple of comments we have so far. Jared says, most anticipated World Series since 2016. Best 2 teams in the World Series since 1996. Alan is predicting Mookie Betts is his pick for the MVP. Rich Jones says Juan Soto is going to be the MVP. Jared says, it saddens me that we won't see a classic starting pitching duel. These managers absolutely refuse to let their starters go 5 or 6 innings. It's pathetic. So let's talk about that, because a lot of people wonder, Bret, you look at Major League Baseball right now. I don't have starters. I've got guys that are openers in the playoffs that are throwing.
Yeah. And it's not up to the players. And sometimes it's really not a managerial decision. It's an organizational decision. Now, I don't get into the X's and O's with Aaron and how I don't want to know. But I think it's almost like a written script before the game. If A happens, we do B. We counter with we counter with B. If C happens, we counter with D. How is the game going? And we have all the changes and all the moves already made before the game even starts. Now, of course, you can jockey and make some audibles at the line, but I think for the most part, you kind of know going in. The old days, it was hand the ball to a Verlander or a Scherzer. That mindset is I'm going 8, I'm going 9 innings. That's not the mindset of today's young players, but it's really not up to them. It's the culture. It's how they're brought up in the minor leagues. I want you to give me a max effort for 5 innings and then hand the ball to the bullpen. I don't like it as a purist of the game, but it's the way the game's going.
So, you look at this one, we'll see whether Flaherty is able to fix a couple mechanical things. And so far, the Yankees have a runner on with 1 out. And the big question is, will everybody stay patient? Because everybody's been patient so far. And they've gone so far, so deep into ball games, Bret, that it's been taxing the starting pitchers, and they've been able to get into some bullpens too.
Well, that's what they do. That's what these teams do. This Dodger offense and this Yankee offense probably control the strike zone better than any 2 teams in baseball. They have long at bats. They have 5, 6, 7, 8 pitch at bats, and that wears out. That gets the pitch count up. Like I said, last time I saw Flaherty, he went from 7 innings shutout baseball to flat sliders in the middle of the plate. And almost you could tell him what was coming. So it's going to be interesting how he bounces back.
Well, Flaherty gets Aaron Judge to strike out swinging. So that's good news for him right there, as he gets the guy that a lot of people think will be the MVP of this thing when it's all said and done.
Well, the MVP of the league or MVP of the World Series?
I got some people betting MVP of the World Series.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's great. Anybody could be the MVP of the World Series. That's why it's a bet, and the odds aren't very good. Aaron Judge is the best offensive player in baseball. He's going to win the MVP of the regular season, which he should. But the postseason, you can't predict. It's not basketball. It's not being the quarterback in the Super Bowl where you have complete control. Ken Griffey Jr. always said, baseball's different because if they can eliminate you from the equation by not pitching to you. So that's where baseball is different than every other sport.
All right. Rich Jones says Juan Soto MVP. What do you think, Boone?
I think it's a good choice. As good a choice as any. I think I went on a limb a little bit with the Garrett Cole because I want to see that old pitching, like I said, the Randy Johnson, that's going to go 3 times in a 7-game set. Kurt Schiller's going to pitch 3 times. Pedro Martinez. Madison Bumgarner took it to a whole new level with that World Series. Uh-oh. We got an error. We got an error on the board, Rich.
First error of the day. So Giancarlo Stanton with a runner first 2 on. He's going to have that fielding error. Tommy Edman, who had been the MVP, has a ball that kind of kicks off his shoulder. So now the Yankees will have 2 runners on, 2 out here in the bottom of the first inning. And for Flaherty, you just want to kind of get through this thing and get a little deep breath. So right away, he's going to have a little bit of duress early going. Another comment, Bret. This is a great one. This is the best comment so far. A-Rod 2006 said, Bret being in one of the most legendary families in American history, from Daniel Boone serving in the Revolutionary War to his little brother managing in the World Series. That's a pretty big doing for the Boone family. So which is bigger, Bob, your grandpa, Ray, Daniel, or Arnie now in the World Series?
Which is the biggest? Well, historically, there's a World Series every year. There's only one Daniel Boone. I don't know. I mean, the lineage, and I was told years ago, I think, people ask about the Daniel Boone all the time. And I said, yeah, probably a rain delay when a reporter had more time than he knew what to do with. So he started getting into the Boone lineage, and they told me, yeah, you're a direct descendant from Daniel Boone. Everybody's confirmed it. Never met Daniel. He's a few generations removed, but I think it's all, growing up in this family. I went through several waves as a kid. I had an unbelievable childhood, lived at Major League Baseball stadiums. And then I was making my way. I kind of had a point where I was getting pissed. I thought, I'm sick of talking about my grandpa and my dad. Watch me. It's they're not going to help me. I'm not Bronny James. They're not going to help me get to the big leagues. And then I went through my career, and as I get older, I just have an appreciation for what my family's accomplished. And it's not egocentric. It's not ego based. It's just kind of proud. I'm proud of my dad. You know, the great catcher that he was. He was a manager. He was a VP for years and years with the Washington Nationals, Cincinnati Reds. Aaron was a really good player. He finishes his career. He goes into the booth, and now he's a skipper for the Yankees as his first job. Pretty darn awesome. I'm proud as heck of him. And then Grandpa, who started it all. You know, you miss Grandpa the farther removed. You know, I talk about the stories Gramps used to tell me, and the Ted Williams and the Bob Fellers, and you know, when I'm in the middle of my career and Gramps is there, and I take it for granted that Gramps is there, I'd be, Gramps, shut up with the Bob Feller, the Ted Williams. But the farther you get away and you get a little bit older, you know, that's pretty cool stuff. And I wish I could hear Gramps tell me another one of his silly stories that he used to go on about, because pretty awesome.
So a couple other people thrown in. Alyssa LaHoolier says, toss up between Judge and Soto for the MVP. And then somebody wanted to know, UCLA didn't give a shout out to Cole. No, UCLA gave a shout out to the Bruins, but there was a funny comment. Your brother said that you're a Trojan for life, but you're a Bruin for 4 years.
Right. And we used to say I shouldn't say that. No, that's a little.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. All right. So just to let everybody know what we're doing some second screen content today for the World Series Game 1. I'm Rich Herrera from the Infinity Sports Network. That's Bret Boone. We host the Bret Boone podcast. So if you're tuning in, you're like, wait a minute, where's Odyssey? Where's Infinity Sports Network? Where's WFAN? We've taken over for a World Series watch party. Coming up, we have some special guests. Now, we had some different guests that we have scheduled throughout the evening. Some of the lineup has changed a little bit. We're going to be inviting Richie Sexson in just a little bit. In fact, when he's ready to go, if he gives me a thumbs up, we might pop him on a little bit early just to talk about this ball game. So he's scheduled to join us. Mike Piazza is scheduled to join us a little bit later. Chipper Jones is scheduled to join us, and Tino Martinez. So can we just go ahead and bring in Sexy?
Sexy can come in whenever he wants.
All right, so let's go. Let's bring in Richie Sexson joining us here on
Sexy,
the Bret Boone Podcast
turn your
Live.
phone sideways.
Okay.
There you go. Richie
Sexy.
Sexson joining us here on the Bret Boone Podcast Live. Sexy, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. Give me a good Booney story.
Oh, come on. He's got too many of those. Rich, he's got too many of those.
Well, first of all, he swings too hard from 90 yards. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's got like a 65-degree wedge, swings way too hard from 90 yards. We talk about finesse. But, no, all my Booney stories are mostly good. I got to be honest.
He dropped the mostly good on me. I'll tell you, Rich, not Richmond, Rich Herrera. We're getting closer to our annual Pebble Beach. Sexy and myself, we've been partners for at least 15 years now, and I know it's my favorite time of year. I love going up to Pebble and hanging out, and that we have a thread amongst us buddies that are going to Pebble, and it's not for public consumption. It's for the boys. But what he's referring to with the 90-yard is I tend to swing hard at everything. And the knock on me is from 100 yards, Booney, can't you just finesse it in there, or do you just have to go as hard as you possibly can? And they're right to a point, because I try to ease it, and it's just a shank. It's I don't know. So that's what he's referring to, Herrera. Yeah. Sexy, serious note. Been watching the postseason. What are you seeing? What are the differences? Do you like the new format as far as they're getting bullpen heavy? It used to be in our day, it was a marquee matchup. You had that starting pitch, and you know he was going to go 6 or 7. You wanted to get him out of there, get to the bullpen. I think the culture of the game's changed. 2024. I was talking to Rich about it. A lot of equity goes into the bullpens these days. You saw the Dodgers get through the Mets series with 3 bullpen games, and they've done it through the postseason because of the injuries to their starters. What are your thoughts opposed to our generation versus the new generation, where it's headed?
Well, it's funny you brought that up because we were actually just talking about it a minute ago. We're just finishing up a little brunch, but we talked about it like literally the starter goes 3 or 4 innings now, and they're giving him high fives coming off the field. And I could remember the old days where it was like you saw the guys going 6 and 7 innings every night, every time out, whether it was Maddox, Glavine, I mean, and I'm speaking about a great team and a great generation, but and they expanded the rosters, right, too. So now you can add another bullpen out of the game. So now we just go inning to inning to inning. So everything's changed. And as a hitter, it's super tough because, as a hitter, you're always you're always thinking about, that next at bat or like, what's this guy got? And you can't get into a rhythm. So they're just kind of ambushing you with bullpen guys every single inning. So as a hitter, it's got to be super tough.
The thing.
So the Dodgers, hold on, Boone, let me jump in. So the Dodgers get something going.
Go ahead, Rich.
Freeman has a triple, so we were wondering what Freddie Freeman's ankle was going to be like. He ends up hitting one off the corner, and he's rattling around out there, and he gets to third with 2 outs.
Don't go there with Richie. We've got a different way of dealing with hobbling people around the bases.
That is another ambush, we call that.
Yes.
No, good for him. I'm glad he's healthy. It makes the series much better when he's healthy.
I'll tell you what, Freddie Freeman, if you're going to try to match up these sides, and I was talking about these sides being very equal, I give the offense a little bit of advantage. I give it to the Dodgers because I just think they're a little deeper. I think if you add the Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith to the big three, which is Freeman, Betts, and Ohtani, I think the Dodgers are a little deeper. But as far as the top three, you go Ohtani, Betts, Freddie Freeman. Well, I think the Yankees have a counterpunch for that when you go you go Judge, Soto, and Stanton, especially the way he's been playing in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, good for him too, right? He's gone through a lot. It's fun to watch him. The poor guy's been through hell and back, right? Like gets a bunch of money, he goes in there. He's had a couple rough years, but I'm happy for him, man. And the more you talk to other dudes around the league, like he sounds like a solid dude. And if you add him when he gets hot, like he's getting hot right now, and he puts Soto, you put all that Yankee lineup in there, I think that's just where the Yankees have the advantage. I think they can throw the ball better. I think their lineup matches up equally, if not better, than the Dodgers. So I like the Yankees' chances.
Well, I thought from the beginning of the season, and I said this early when they were asking about the Yankee lineup, I think we know what we're getting with an Aaron Judge and a Soto. He's about to win an MVP. And if it weren't for Aaron Judge, then Soto would win the MVP. That's the type of players they are, both on Hall of Fame tracks.
Yes. Yeah.
Stanton is not that, but I always thought just the mere presence, a healthy Stanton in the middle of that lineup is the key for the Yankees. That's what I thought all year. I didn't expect him to have that big and win the ALCS MVP, but he's more than a factor right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, just having a monster in the middle of your lineup like that is crazy. And again, back to his leadership part, I think, when we played, you hear about guys, you see guys that are good, but the leadership part, I think, is a big thing, in my opinion.
So right now, a couple people commenting. Remember watching Richie, Pure Power. Somebody else said Madison Bumgarner was the last real Bulldog. We'll never see a Morris, Smoltz, Ryan, 140 plus pitches at this point of the season. Richie, talk to us about give us your thoughts, because we were just talking about this. It's not even five and dive of guys starting, and then we're getting to the bullpen in the third and fourth inning.
Well, it's crazy to me. And again, we're beating a dead horse, but it's funny, and Bret and I talk on the side too. And it's the same thing where we want to see the starters going 5 and 6 innings. And, obviously bringing in you got your 7, 8, 9 guys. Now we're talking about your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bullpen guys. Yeah. And the bullpen guys were a nightmare.
Yeah.
All in all, they were a nightmare. So
how so?
I could see the theory in what they're trying to do, but the starters, to me, in my personal opinion, need to get through 5 innings in order to win the series, in my opinion. And that's strictly.
Do you think this too? And this is what Smoltz said. He said, there's two things that happen with bullpen games. They either go really good or they go really bad. And in a hurry, when you have to rely on 6, 7, 8 guys, like you were mentioning, all to be on top of their game, all it takes is 2 guys that are off that day.
Correct.
And you lose a game. Now, if they're all on point and they're all having great days, well, you've seen the Dodgers do that. They had 4 shutouts in the postseason so far.
Yes.
But, man, it seems like as a skipper, that's tough. Like, all right, I got 7 bullpen guys, and I hope they're good today, man. But with that one Bulldog number 1 or number 2 starter, you know pretty much what you're getting from him. He'll give me 5. He'll give me 6 on a good night. He'll give up no runs. On a bad night, he might give up 4. But it's not going to be 9-1 in the second inning if I got my guy going. So there's a difference from a skipper's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they'll get the bullpen going, and you know, I'm removed from the game for a while, but they'll get the bullpen going quick, man. If there's guys will get first and third with nobody out, they got the bullpen going in the second inning. So that's the difference. Where, you know, Maddox's a guy that could throw 80 pitches in 9 innings and get ground ball double plays, and it was more of an art. So I just think everyone's just. Dude, these guys are throwing these hooks, and everyone's throwing 100 with a hammer. It's just, I get it. I see the theory in it, but it's hard. It's hard on the bullpen, and it's hard for me to, you know, totally rationalize not letting your starter just grind through some bad situations, you know.
Sexy, what do you think? Your opinion on a Flaherty? Flaherty pitch came over at the trade deadline. Did well for them. They've had a lot of injuries. Glasnow went down. They don't have a Clayton Kershaw. Walker Buehler's coming back from Tommy John. He's been himself. You see little spurts of the stuff that he had in, say, 2021, but I don't think he's quite back there. Pitched 4 innings last time, gave up no runs. Flaherty's been kind of on 2 different wavelengths. You know, 2 starts ago, he went pitched 7 shutout innings. Last outing, it just seemed like his stuff was in the middle of the plate. It was slow rolling, wasn't tight spin on his slider. How important to this Dodger team do you think does Flaherty need to come back and be a force for them at the top of that rotation?
Well, all of that is correct, but also that you get tired at this time of year. The blessing that Flaherty has right now is the rest in between series. In my opinion, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He's got time. Everybody's got time to heal up. This is almost like a pitcher series. Like, in between both the NLCS and the ALCS, is that 5-day rest is so big for everyone. And, you know, as you're seeing right now, yeah, he'll get into a little trouble, but he's got an out pitch. You know, he's got an out pitch, obviously, that it's a go-to guy, but I really think rest is important. And that's my opinion.
We got 0-0 game in the second. Flaherty's, he's had, how many punch outs he got now, Rich?
Let me look that up. I think I should say probably 3, I think, so far.
I think he's got 3 punch outs.
Yeah, 3 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, Richie, this time of day, Dodger Stadium. Tell me about playing at Dodger Stadium in front of a big crowd like this.
Well, every team I played for wasn't very good, so we didn't draw a big crowd in LA. But I love playing at Dodger Stadium. It's a beautiful place. It's always 75. You know, it's hitter friendly until it gets dark. That's pretty well known. I think everybody's figured that out. But, you know, the joy of playing in LA is just the whole vibe, the whole atmosphere. You know, every time you went there, whether it was Piazza or Noma was pitching, you know, the guys on their own team brought out the people. I played on those bad teams, so we weren't. When you're on the Yankees and you go into Dodge, this has got to be insane. You know, to see this Yankees Dodgers series right now has got to be just insane. They're going to bring out the who's who of the world for sure.
Sexy, I was telling Rich about The difference in Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium, especially late in the season when it starts to get cool off. Dodger Stadium seems it's light, it's bright, the birds are chirping, you got short sleeve shirts. It's like really a low stress, as far as low stress can be in Major League Baseball.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you, you go to Yankee Stadium late in the season with games that count. It's that crisp, cold air. You got the sleeves on. I've been there with the neck warmer on. That sky seems to be way darker than all the other skies. And I was telling Richie, I said, as a player, it's kind of spooky. It's unbelievable. The atmosphere is unbelievable. But as a player, it's kind of scary where LA is more light and everything's all right. I feel like I'm almost in a spring training game versus like I'm in a box and you better get some hits, Booty. Your thoughts on that?
That is so true too, right? And especially when you get into that, I did early on in my career. I was with the Indians, and you go into Yankee Stadium, in the ALCS, and I mean, you're getting hit with golf balls. It's 31 degrees. People are yelling at you. They're angry. It is a way different than LA. You're right. LA was like a cruise trip when you went in there. They're very into their baseball and very knowledgeable for the Dodgers, but what a different atmosphere. Each coast is different. Yeah, I feel like, and then the Midwest is even different. Everybody does things different ways when it comes to the fans. So, dude, New York they call it a jungle for a reason.
Sexy, we've never really talked about this much. We were teammates for a minute in Seattle,
Mhm.
but I haven't really talked to you about when you played for the Yankees briefly. Okay, as a player that went to the Bronx a lot, I lost a World Series there. I got eliminated in 01 in the postseason by the Yankees, so I don't have great memory. But the memories of going there, the atmosphere, the crowd, it was unbelievable. I loved it. I love going to New York. I don't want to stay there, but I loved going there for a 3 or 4 game series just to walk down the street. I tell this story all the time. Walk down the street and you got a guy across the streets yelling at you, Boone, you're a bum. You got no chance tonight. That was their way of saying, hey, how you doing today, Booney? It's a nice day. I
Mhm.
love that. I loved it about it. And I always thought if I got a chance at the end, man, it'd be cool to play in the Bronx for a season. Maybe, when I'm hobbling and on my last night, that never got to it never happened for me. You got to play there briefly, and I'm not saying at the end of our career when we're not what we used to be, it's not as fun when you're not as good a player as you were when you're 28. But just the atmosphere of the home team being in the Bronx, what was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. And, you know, I didn't
Roll
mean to leave.
call.
Yeah, I didn't mean to leave out New York as not knowledgeable fans. I mean, even when whether you go into St. Louis or these people, they'll cheer you if you're good at what you do, even on the other team. And I feel like New York is that way too. Like if you're a
I
good
agree.
player, yeah,
Mhm.
if you're a good player, they're going to applaud you. They're going to rib you for 8 straight innings. But if you hit that third homer somewhere, they're going to give you the old, yeah, all right, man, nice job.
And they'll almost give you the bow down. Like
Yeah,
you beat them up.
yeah,
Seriously. You're on
yeah,
deck. If you're going 0 for 4 and the Yankees are beating you, you're going to
mhm.
hear it on your way off the field. But
Oh
I
yeah.
used to look at them and go, "Hey, we'll see about tomorrow." And then I'm thinking to myself, "Man, I better do something tomorrow. We better win, or I'm going to really hear it." But the times that you did have good games and you would beat the Yankees, I'm telling you that those fans were very appreciative of good play.
Yeah, and that's all you really want as a baseball player. You're busting your butt every day, doing this for a living, and yeah, you get booed, which is fine. And most people don't come up with anything too crazy, Like I got a Boone story for you. What's the wallet joke again?
What do you mean? You got a story and you're asking me to tell it? No,
Well, you
they were talking about me being a big power hitter, Boone. I didn't know you were so short. There you go. That helps you out.
okay? And he said
Somebody
I'm
else in the
not very
comments
short,
did
but
talk
it's
about the
from
difference
my
between the
wallet.
size of
Yeah.
Booney and Richie. So
Yeah, it's a little bit of a height difference. Hey,
Yeah.
all right, I'll tell my story, then you tell your story. On the height thing, Richie
Mhm.
and I were teammates for, like I said, a minute in Seattle. Well, now all of a sudden, I'm used to being the big. I was in the group with Edgar and Ichiro. That was my group. So I was kind of the big hoss in my group as far as BP hitting home runs. Now I'm getting a little bit older. I'm very end of my career, and Richie Sexson and Adrian Beltre are free agents. They come to me. Now all of a sudden I go from an older Edgar and an Ichiro to a in his prime Richie Sexson and Adrian Beltre in his prime. So now I got to hit BP with them. And I was starting to feel bad after a while because I was used to being the big hoss. All of a sudden I'm not anymore. I said, Richie, it must be really nice to have that sort of leverage. That's why you can hit balls so far. I said, you could just reach out on your front foot and hit balls where I have to back leg them. And he tells me, he goes, yeah, Boone, but with those short arms, he goes, nothing can go wrong. Think of what could go wrong with these. And he puts out his arms. So there is a point to that. That's to your question, size.
Yeah.
There's my story. You can tell the wallet story now if you want.
Well, anyway, the fan was ribbing him about being so short. Basically, short story, shorter, is he said, I'm not very short when I'm standing on my wallet. And the fan enjoyed it. Loved it.
That's awesome. We've talked about this. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, Richie, we talked about this in the podcast when you came on. You look at Judge, you look at these huge players.
Judge is an amazing player.
Yeah. Tell us about him, because you guys have the same stature. There's so much that could go wrong.
Totally.
You're all elbows and knees. Talk to us a little bit about these humongous sluggers that we see on both sides.
Well, the difference between, a shorter player and a taller player is the shorter player can get out of a slump quicker, I feel like. If you
what do you know about shorter players?
I just feel like
Richie was 6'5" in 5th grade. All right, go ahead. I'm interrupting you. This is a hybrid.
Well, the bottom line is I feel like as a tall player, you got a lot more tinkering that going on. We're constantly moving our hands. We're constantly doing this and that. For me, Judge, my son actually told me, we have a picture together. It's me and my son Preston and Aaron Judge. And Preston, after we took the picture, we're walking off the field or whatever, he goes, I think he's taller than you. You're not the tallest hitter anymore, Dad. So that is crazy to me that Preston thinks he's taller. He isn't taller, is he, Preston? He's not taller. Anyway,
he's a huge man. You don't understand how big he is unless you're standing next to him.
And what's the most amazing part about him is that he hits for average, which is very, very hard for a man of that stature. Trust me. I tried 2-strike approaches. I've tried everything. I always try to, because hitting, you get booed off the field hitting 265 for a career back in my day. This man, now you can hit 220 with, you'd be a second baseman making $15 million a year, hit 220 with 21 homers and 42 ribbies.
17
so there's
homers
a difference.
Yes, 17 homers.
So a little bit of a difference, like they've got rid of the average, and they've basically made hitting homers and playing really good defense. The defense now, I will say, is really, really good. I will say. But, Judge hits 310. He's a big man. He's hit 320. I'm not sure. I haven't looked up exactly his stats, but he's a triple. He's trying to win the triple crown at his height. That's unheard of.
And, I always used to tease Richie, but I knew the other side of it was,
you still tease me, by the way.
He's got the leverage, but he does have a lot to go wrong. I couldn't imagine walking around like that. It's just, you're so big and it's not, you're so tall. Yeah, you're tall, but it's the wingspan and how much can go wrong in that little strike zone that we have to hit in. And really before current day, it was Frank Howard, Dave Winfield, and Richie Sexson were the big boys, the big hitters. Nowadays, they're kind of coming out of the woodwork. I mean, it started with Stanton. Stanton looks like a little kid standing next to Judge. And
he does. He really does.
Well, Stanton's like as big as the Rock.
He's
small. You know?
He's
and then you got the Judges. You got the kid L.A. De La Cruz playing. what is he, 6'6", 6'7", playing shortstop for the Reds? The big shortstop in our day was Cal Ripken.
And people thought he was too big.
Right.
Yeah.
Derek
Can't
Jeter
play
was
short.
6'4".
Yeah.
Derek Jeter was 6'4". Man, he was big. Alex was 6'4". These are big men. He's 6'6", 6'7". I think the other Cruz in Pittsburgh is like 6'8". He's playing short.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're putting something in the food, but Richie was kind of one of the originals. It was Winfield. It was sexy. And it was the big one, Frank Howard from back in my grandpa's day.
Totally. I think most people, it's funny, like when you bring people, Brett, you've done it, you bring people onto the field and they go to meet a second baseman or a third baseman or outfielder, and like, I didn't realize how big that guy was. Baseball players are bigger than you think they are.
I'll tell you what, and I won't keep you forever, but when I came back to Seattle, and this is probably 6-7 years ago, I'm throwing out a first pitch. Robinson Cano is going to catch it. Robinson Cano, great career. He's a great player, great defender, great hitter, power. And I'm thinking, I've never met him before, but I'm thinking I'm probably just as thick as him. He's a little taller than me. I walked up to him. I was like a little child.
I know.
I didn't realize you were this big. I mean, Cano's every bit of 6'3" and thick, like 6'3", 220. And I'm thinking we're the same size. So, yeah, guys are definitely getting bigger, stronger. I'll go visit Aaron, and I walk in the locker room. It's like you're in an NFL locker room.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but everything's getting a little bigger, a little stronger, and a little faster.
Yeah.
If you talk about Judges putting up 50s and 60s every year, you're like, nobody thought anybody would hit 60.
No, he's hit 50-something twice and 60 once. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're heading to the top of the third inning. What have you guys seen so far? Do you guys have any thoughts on what we've seen so far from either Cole or Flaherty?
Oh, there he
have
is.
my readers
We got
on.
Bledsoe in the background.
What up?
Yeah. Oh, we got Bledsoe. Yeah.
We got Bledsoe
Hey, Drew,
in the
say
background.
hi.
Wait, who do we have over there?
It's Bledsoe.
Bret Boone.
No, it's not. Is it really?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, Drew? Drew, I'm missing you at Pebble this year.
Yeah, I know, man.
you
I can't make it every year, but I know you'll have fun without me.
So Drew Bledsoe's dropping by our live podcast.
That's
I didn't
Ben
recognize
Connect.
you got a million people laughing as you're roasting people.
Right? My comedy career off to a great start. I learned everything from Richie, though. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, he can't go to Pebble with us because he's on tour.
No, Pops is
flying-
in.
But Pop's second. The guy I replaced is coming back.
He's got.
I'm not like that Brady guy. When the injured guy comes back, I actually get the job back. And Richie's dad is coming out of retirement and coming back to Pebble.
I love it. I can't wait for Johnny Sexton. He's a piece of work, but he's a lot of fun.
Hey, Drew, do you pay attention to any of this, the World Series and all that?
Yeah, who's playing?
Hey, there's Uncle Larry.
Who's playing? And when does it start?
Tomorrow, 4 p.m.
How many touchdowns are the Rangers favored by?
3.5 goals.
All right, which is tougher to get to, Super Bowl or World Series?
What's that?
Which is tougher to get to, a Super Bowl or a World Series?
Oh, Super Bowl for sure. This is where you're playing against real athletes in a physical sport.
Brett, do you have a retort?
I'll just go with Drew.
I mean, how hard can the games be when you play 162 of them? I mean, come on.
Simple.
Oh.
I'm messing with you. I don't know. Baseball seems pretty hard to hit. Richie couldn't do it.
Hey, Drew, that's because his limbs are too long.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
I'll be
Love you guys. Let the baseball guys talk about baseball. I'll see you.
Thanks, man.
See you later. That was
sorry, guys.
No, Richie, what do you think? Do you think Boone could have played football?
Blows. Now, Richie says,
hey,
I'll let you comment.
Let's talk about his basketball career real quick. First.
Oh, come on.
Until JT Snow owned him and then he was done, right?
Yeah.
Well, he did have one free throw. He got fouled. I don't know who why would you even foul Bret, right? Like just let him just swat it. Don't need to foul him.
I've never told that story on air.
And then he gets fouled, goes to the free throw line, and everybody's nervous. Bret's going to score a point. Bret's going to score a point. And he missed the whole rim.
No,
And he hit the backboard and never even hit the rim.
No, it was and one. I made the layup. It was and one. I was on the board.
Oh, it's a better story if you didn't make the layup.
Hey, Rich, it's tough when there's two Riches on the podcast.
Yeah.
No,
well, one is a talented athlete, and the other is the short talk show host. So I defer to Big Sexy.
I laid it in. It was and one. Yeah, it was and one. I go to the free throw line. It wasn't the square backboards. It was the moon shape, right? So it was the smaller version.
Yep.
And I got all my baseball buddies in the crowd, and they're chanting. They're chanting for almost mocking me, which I didn't like. I threw the free throw, Herrera. It hit the side of the backboard and kicked right. Didn't even hit the rim.
No, missed the whole rim. Who does that?
That's when I decided that my hoops were over. I was done.
There you go. All right. So what have we seen in the baseball game so far, guys? Anything? I mean, I've got a couple. I got an error. I got some pretty good pitching, some Ks. What are you thinking?
It's just two good pitchers, man. Eventually the hitters are going to catch on. The pitchers always get into a routine, and that's what they're all trying to figure out right now. I think that eventually when you get around to at bat 2 or 3, you start to figure out what the team, because no matter what they say, the starter is throwing what he's throwing, but still they try to get that specific guy out with a pitch. And by the end, when they get into a routine, even the bullpen guys, the Dodgers are thinking, I can get a Judge out with high heaters and curveballs. So Judge is going to start to adapt to what they're trying to do to him, and it's a cat and mouse game.
I got one for you, Richie.
Excuse me?
Two teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees. What is the key for each team? Who is the key for their team to win?
It always is pitching, I think it's always pitching. I think whoever throws it best, whatever bullpens can stay healthiest. Like these starters are doing good getting this far. Unfortunately, like this is our new game.
Yeah.
Like just getting to the 4th inning. If you can not go into your bullpen early on in the series, then I think that's the team that has the advantage, because you're always 1 3-run jack away from losing a ball game, right? You make a bad pitch and you lose. So, if this comes down to, if this gets bullpenny, I got to give the advantage to the Yankees, in my opinion, again.
Yeah, I give a slight advantage. We've talked about it. Why are the Dodgers slightly favored in the series? You just got to kind of chalk it up as the people in Vegas are thinking. It's pretty evenly matched, but you got to give a little advantage to someone, probably because of the home field. Now, if they short the series and it doesn't go 7, that home field doesn't really come into play. But on paper, it is 7 games. You get 4 at your place. You have a slight edge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, big time. I mean, that's what the whole deal is, man. I mean, it really, it's all pitching, and then you hope for your boys to hit a 3-run jack.
All right. So your call, Yankees win this series. Uncle Aaron brings it home.
Yep. Uncle Aaron and I talked today.
Oh, really?
He's in good shape. He's feeling good. Not talked, text.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a difference.
New world talk. New world talk. Well, man, I appreciate you jumping on with us. Very cool.
Hey, Bret, you remember RC?
Let's go. Get him on there.
RC,
what's going on, son?
Watching some baseball.
Look,
What
we
do you
got
think?
the ball game on.
Hey, RC, what's the key to the game? What do the Dodgers have to do to win, and what do the Yankees have to do to win?
Oh, what's the key? He wants to know the key.
Key to the series.
RC's like, is a baseball game on? I'm trying to game. We're playing cards.
Come on, RC, put the gummy down.
He said the team that hits better is going to win.
Oh, that's good. All right.
There you go.
Good. Sexy, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, Richie.
Appreciate it. I
You
get to
bet.
see you
Thanks.
soon.
Thanks, Rich. See you, Bret.
All right, take care. Richie Sexton's been our special guest here on the Bret Boone Podcast Live with a special appearance by Drew Bledsoe. I thought that was Bledsoe standing behind him. Like, I didn't know they were hanging out together.
Bend, Oregon, that's what they do.
Everybody goes over to Sexy's house?
Everybody goes to Sexy. He might have been at Drew's. I don't know. They're always together. Bledsoe's great.
That was
he's
awesome.
Great. His dad, Richie's dad, is our fourth at our Pebble Beach team. We got the little man who's been on the Boone podcast. He's my partner. And then Richie always plays with his dad, John, who's a legend at Pebble Beach. But a couple of years ago, he had some stuff going on and he couldn't go. So Drew stepped in. We almost won. Drew won the shootout. He was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed my time with Drew. He'll be back at Pebble, but yeah, they're good buddies and they hang out. And I'm sure they go over and watch football games on the weekend at Drew's. And tonight he's at Richie's house.
All right, so Jason Waller says, let's go. Alan says this is better than the Manning cast. I mean, if you get Drew Bledsoe,
I'll tell you what, Waller, he's got a question for one of our guests a little bit later. I'm not gonna call him out on it. I'm gonna let him ask you. But Rich, when he asks a question later in the broadcast, make sure you get that on here. He wants to know. You know who Jason Waller is? Jason Waller is the star of The Hills, Laguna Beach.
Yes.
Yeah, Jason's the bad boy.
Oh, I'm gonna have to tell my sister that he's
Look
watching
him up right now. He's all pumped that we're giving him a shout out. I told him I would though.
I like it. All right, so we're asking people who's going to be the MVP of the World Series now that we're in Game 1. Early going, it's bottom of the third. Really nothing going. Both pitchers looking pretty good so far. What have you seen, Bret?
That's what I've seen. You know, in the World Series, what you're used to seeing is not slugfests. It's usually great pitching. We haven't seen that. Garrett Cole obviously is the headliner here. We're used to that. The only one thing about Garrett Cole that he's been vulnerable of is giving up the long ball. And he could pitch great, but he's always vulnerable to give up the home run. So as long as you can keep it to a solo shot or a 2-run shot, if he can go 6 or 7, and Garrett Cole's one of the guys that is capable in this postseason of going 6, 7, 8 innings. If he can keep his pitch count down, which right now it's only at 27 pitches for this day and age, that's not that many pitches.
Very efficient.
Yeah. So Garrett Cole's the star of both teams' pitching staffs. Garrett Cole's the number one if you combine both staffs. So he needs, like I said, he's my key. He's my pick to click. If Garrett's Garrett, that's how the Yankees win the World Series.
All right, Flaherty, everybody's been talking about whether the velocity would be more consistent. It's been up, it's been down. What have you seen so far?
I've seen a lot better Flaherty than I did in his last outing. You know, he's much more efficient. His ball's spinning a little bit better than last time. Last time was middle of the plate, and it was very predictable. I think this time off, guys are kind of able to recharge their batteries. You know, sometimes in the postseason you want to keep going when you're hot, and sometimes, you know, with the Freddie Freeman situation at first base, he was hot. He has a foot injury, so this 5 games was welcome for him.
Right,
a Flaherty coming off a real rough start. This might have been a time for him to recharge his batteries. That's why Doc Roberts went right back with him in Game 1, because I thought after his last outing, they might have gone to Yamamoto in Game 1. They stuck with Flaherty, and so far, so good. We'll see. The thing with the Dodgers is, you know, they won't hesitate. They've got their bullpen fully locked and loaded, so they're not going to hesitate if they see any trouble with Flaherty. But so far, so good. So far, so good. Bottom third inning, Shohei Ohtani is coming up, 2 outs. Ron Cey was originally scheduled to join us, but he had something come up personally. So Richie Sexton jumped in to pinch hit for him, and we have got a treat for you. In fact, if he wants to give me a thumbs up, I might bring him in right now. Hall of Famer Chipper Jones, former teammate of Bret Boone, joining us here on the Bret Boone Podcast Live World Series edition. Chipper, thanks for joining us. How you doing? That's Chipper Jones.
I'm doing good, guys. How are y'all?
Chipper, thanks for coming on, man.
Yep, no problem.
What do you got for him, Rich? What do you got?
Well, I was going to ask you, what have you seen so far of the games? What are your thoughts early on?
Been very impressed with Jack Flaherty. Did not expect this coming out. And I've seen Garrett Cole in the middle of the zone thus far. He was lucky to get out of the first inning. They barreled up 3 balls. The one ball that they didn't went for a triple. So they could very easily be down a run or 2 right now. More impressed with Flaherty as opposed to Cole at this point. Now, you say what you want. That could change on a dime at any second with these offenses, and it's going to be an interesting matchup going forward.
You played in this game before, in this World Series. What are your memories of all those games that you played in, all those World Series, all those titles? When you look back at it, or you're talking to your kids, what do you talk about?
Just the experience. I mean, Boone will tell you it's much about getting there and then enjoying the experience. Obviously, you want to win, but the experience itself is unlike any other. And I got to play 2 of them in Yankee Stadium. I got to play one in a raucous Cleveland, who was, just begging for any kind of success back in the mid 90s when that Cleveland team was so very good. So my 3 experiences in the World Series were great. I mean, I think the one everybody asks me all the time, what's the one that sticks under your craw, that gets under your skin? And it's 96, go up to New York, beat them the first 2 games, coming back home as defending champs with 3 in a row at our ballpark, and we lose 4 in a row. That was, we came in hot. So that was kind of the one where, I wish we had that one over again. But the fact of the matter is I wouldn't trade any of the 3 experiences. And, we got one. We played against, a juggernaut in the Yankees the last 2, and they got the best of us. So you just got to tip your cap.
Chipper, I got 99. We were teammates. We got to go to the World Series. We got whooped by the Yankees. Like you said, I think juggernaut's an accurate term. But I didn't think, as a player at that point, I'm in the middle of my career and I'm thinking, man, that sucked to get to the World Series and get beat that quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was thinking, well, I'll get back there. I'll win one before it's all said and done. I'm sure you get sick of hearing about it, people going, with that pitching staff, the Braves, the 90s, how'd you only win one? That's the typical question. It just goes to show you how special those Yankee teams were that ended up winning 4 rings in a short period. But just how tough, no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, there's things got to go your way. How tough it is to win a World Series. You got to win one. You got to have that feeling. Most of us have it. And some of the greatest players I've ever been around, a Griffey or a Barry Bonds, never won a World Series. But when you're playing, I'll get back there. That's why, as an ex-player now and an old guy sitting at home watching these games, when I see every year somebody win the World Series, I just think to myself, man, I hope they really realize how special this is, because it ain't that hard. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
To win a World Series.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, so making it to the World Series, winning it my rookie year, making it to the World Series up 2-0 my second year. Yeah, I thought it was going to be an every year thing. We're going to ride Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz's coattails till they buck us. We're going to ride them till they buck us, and we did to a certain extent. But the fact of the matter is there is a team every year that comes out of nowhere. Didn't necessarily happen this year because you have 2 of the top 3 salaries, in baseball that are contributing to the World Series this year. It's not always like that. There's normally, this year you would say it would have been a San Diego Padres or Detroit comes, from way back, to stun the Astros. And I fully expected Detroit to beat Cleveland, to be honest with you. That's how hot that's the way the story has gone for the last few years. And you expect one of those Cinderella stories, those guys, those wild card teams that are playing good coming in to make it to the World Series. ultimately, I think this was the best matchup for Major League Baseball. You need to have, every once in a while, you need to have the Yankees and Dodgers in a World Series. It's just like when I was 7, 8 years old in the late 70s, early 80s. You got to have East Coast versus West Coast. It just seems like it's right, And me being a Dodger fan growing up, don't get me wrong, I hate them now, but the fact of the matter is it's good for baseball to have these two markets, these two teams with all these superstars in the World Series this year. I think it's going to be a very compelling series because the margin of difference in these two teams, both offensively, defensively, starting pitching and bullpen, is razor thin.
I agree with you. When I look at this and there's a new format. I think fans love it. You got more people are getting to the postseason. Probably the easiest it's ever been to get to the postseason.
100%.
Arguably the toughest to get through all those rounds.
Yep.
It's more like March Madness now than the playoffs that we've been used to for years. As a fan, as an analyst, as somebody that watches, I really like it. I don't know about you, because it seems like I can never predict what's going to happen. But I look at the numbers this year. You look at the Yankees had the best record in the American League. The Dodgers have the best record in all of baseball. And we're sitting here at the end. And for everybody that's complaining about the wild card teams getting in, the two best records in baseball got in the end. Or I'm sorry, the best record in each league got in the end. So it kind of worked out. You mentioned the East Coast West. I was talking about this today with somebody, and I thought this is like a script. This is like a movie. You got East Coast, you got West Coast, you got Soto and Judge and Ohtani and Betts. Down to my brother Aaron. Aaron went to USC. Doc Roberts went to UCLA. Of course they did. Of course it's the SC Trojans. I think you're right, though. I think it's good for baseball.
Yeah.
I think it's something that it's needed. And, I'm happy for my brother because he's been grinding, man. And you know how
Right.
it is in New York. I was really happy for him to clinch it. It's kind of like he got that off his back.
I'm happy for him too. Obviously, we played against each other. He told me I had so many laughs with your brother, whether I was on third base or he was on third base. He's a great guy. It's good to see him kind of getting his just due. But when you look at these two teams and you think about the big three offensively on both teams, you got Ohtani, you got Betts, you got Freeman, you have Judge, Soto, and Stanton.
Right.
The difference is razor thin, and as well as I do that it's probably going to come down to what? A Will Smith, a Max Muncy, or a Jazz Chisholm and an Alex Verdugo. They're going to be the ones that really come up with a big swing in, let's say, Game 5 to really switch momentum. Like you could lay a blanket over both of these offenses. You could really lay a blanket over both of these bullpens. They really can be dominant.
Yeah.
Where I give the plus, I guess if you could say that, is to New York in the starting pitching. They have more starting pitching that's probably going to go deeper in games than LA, but LA has the home field advantage. So it really kind of evens things out. I would definitely give New York the advantage if they had home field advantage. I think New York will win a game in Los Angeles. The question for me is, will Los Angeles win a game in New York? Because as well as I do how hard it is to win a postseason game in the city of New York.
I was talking to Sexy earlier, and here's my version of it. I said, you go to LA, it's usually nice. You got short sleeves on. It's light out. The birds are chirping. It's kind of almost a spring trainee atmosphere.
Late arriving crowd most of the time.
Crowd. You go to the Bronx in October where it's cold and you need a neck garment. And Chipper, tell me I'm wrong. Is that sky not darker than anywhere else in the world? It's almost spooky.
Yeah.
I remember when the year I played with you guys, We get to the World Series, and I remember going out on the line. I was going to run a few sprints, and I'm telling you, I tell this story all the time. Something came over me. It was Game 3. It's like, what's wrong with me? I played 20 games in the Bronx. Yeah, but I've never been in a World Series in the Bronx, and it was different.
And the ghosts of Yankee Stadium.
They're unbelievable.
Are they? Is it real, Chipper? Is that real?
100%. You walk. Let me tell you, I don't know about new Yankee Stadium. I only played a couple games there my last year, but old Yankee Stadium, you walk down those halls and you walk into that clubhouse, and then you get ready to play and you walk out of that clubhouse and down those halls, and you start thinking about all the freaking talent that has walked through the alleys of old Yankee Stadium. And it's damp and it's dingy and it's wet and it's cold, and you get chills up the back. It's real. I'm telling you, it's real.
I'll tell you, I was there in 2001. My Mariner team, we go there for the ALCS, and that's the year we're rolling. Yeah, we're just going to win. Everybody just rolls over when we come to town. We win at 200 games during the regular season. It felt like. So I get there, and we got a good series going. And I remember late in the game, I forget what game it was, but talk about ghosts. I'm sitting there at second base. There's a break in the action. Might be a pitching change. Might be something. I forget what's going on. But all of a sudden, a weird wind kicks up. And it's like not a wind blowing in or blowing out. It's just kind of swirl. A bunch of hot dog wrappers start coming out by second base. I'm picking them up, putting them in my pocket. It came out of nowhere. I think it was a close game. And it seemed like the next pitch, Bernie Williams hitting right-handed, hits a pop-up to right center. As second base, I put my hand in the air. I'm not thinking it's even close. It's not even close to the warning track. It's a 340-foot, fly ball. That sucker went 10 rows deep. And I started thinking about the ghost line. I said, that wasn't here 5 minutes ago. But so, that was my experiences there, and I believe him. Aaron, when he played there, he said, yeah, Jeter said, just wait, the ghosts will come out when Aaron hit the home run. And I'll tell you, I was watching that series. The ghost did help him with that homer.
I've played many a regular season game there, and we've gone to New York during the regular season, and you don't even pay attention to that stuff. You just go up there and you beat them 2 out of 3,
Right.
I'm telling you, there's something. The ghosts of 26 championships come out of nowhere, and it makes the strike zone a little tighter. It makes the pitcher grip a little harder. It makes the opposing team grip the bat a little tighter, not play as loose. There's a mystique to it that nobody can explain.
I got one question for you. Okay. And this is, I want to, only you can tell this because it's right. I was there, and we were kind of all licking our wounds at the time, but it's kind of, you can check it out on YouTube. It's great. Both our buddy, the meathead, Ryan Klesko. It's Game 4, Yankee Stadium. It wasn't a funny moment because we're getting
it was a hilarious moment.
But it was hilarious. Mariano's in the game. See, that means right there, it ain't going good for us.
Yeah.
So Mariano's about to close us out. All right, you take it from there. Ryan Klesko at the plate. And you see Ryan coming back, too, with the look on his face, like the tough guy look. He didn't know what to do. All right, you take it.
I got no sense. Yeah, so Mariano's up there throwing 95-mile-an-hour chainsaws with that cutter, and if you try to pull a cutter, and I learned this very early on, and Mariano was a reason for that. If you don't stay on top and inside of the cutter, it's going to eat you up every single time. And Klesko just, like you said, big donkey meathead, he's going to try and prove everybody wrong. I'm going to take Mariano into the upper deck, and we're going to get back in this game. And he broke 3 bats in one at bat, 3. And after the second one, everybody was kind of chuckling, but I don't know that I've ever seen somebody break 3 bats in one at bat, and the third one was obviously a weak ground ball to first or second, and we're getting embarrassed. Like, we're losing 3-0, and I couldn't help it. I was amused, and I laughed, and I caught hell for it. The next day, oh, Chipper's laughing. Da, da, da. Listen, that's breaking 3 bats in one at bat.
Right.
That is not a badge of honor in any way, shape, or form amongst major league hitters.
Right.
We ought to be able to barrel something up, and he couldn't do it. I thought it was funny. I mean, they had it well in hand. So.
Yeah, I mean, right. If it's not like it was 3-3, and Rhino needs to get on to really give us a chance.
Right.
We got our back as far up against the wall as you could imagine.
Yeah.
So and the Chipper won the MVP that year, Rich, and they put the camera went right to him because he's in the dugout. He's just rolling, and Klesko's got that look on his face like, "What are you laughing at, man?" And he wanted to laugh too, but he couldn't. It had to be a serious moment. He's probably thinking to himself, "We're down 3-0. I can't be laughing at this right now." Yeah. So it was a funny moment.
All right, then I have to ask Chipper, did you know that you were on camera? I mean, because if as a broadcaster, we're showing the game, all of a sudden the red light comes in, they catch Chipper doing something. He's scratched himself. Do you have any idea that America's watching you?
No, I had no clue at the time. To be honest with you, when you're in the heat of the game, the heat of the battle, you're just having interactions with your teammates, and coverage back then in 1999, that was 25 years ago, was nowhere near what it was now. So the last thing I expected was for the camera to immediately flash to me laughing, down 3-0, down whatever we were in game 4. I don't even remember the score. But the fact of the matter is that, I caught some flack for it, but I'm not sorry. The fact I'm in the World Series, I'm playing in Yankee Stadium. I laughed at what I thought was a laughable moment, and
because we take it, we overblow everything. We see Chipper Jones in there, and Chipper's holding the bat with the different end that he normally does. All of a sudden today on Twitter, look at Chipper, something's completely different. What's going on in there?
Yeah, well
they're always
my dad always says you can't please everybody. Stop trying. I had fun with my teammates. Bret will tell you, I mean, I wasn't always the belle of the ball as far as joking around with the guys. I was kind of in my own world, and I wanted to stay focused as much as possible. I was in my own little world, but we let our hair down from time to time. Okay, we got our butts kicked by the Yankees. Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer of all time, is in. And there was a comical moment with one of our teammates in the 9th inning of the last game of the World Series. People expect us to, throw helmets and throw bats and break bats over our thighs. We're not like that, man. We're still having fun. Yeah, we don't like getting our brains beat in, but I can still tip my cap at the end of the day to a very good Yankee team that far and away was a better club than we were.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I want to ask Chipper a question here. You look at the Dodgers, 12 division titles. You look at your Braves team, 14 division titles, 14 trips to the playoffs. I don't know if I can help explain to the fans how difficult that is. Well, is there pressure every year once you get on that roll? I mean, the Dodgers have been to 4 of the last 8 World Series, and Doc Roberts was on the chopping block earlier this year, and people are talking about he might not be able to be the guy, and let's go find somebody else.
Oh, I don't think he's ready to relinquish that spot. Like, he's done a hell of a job.
Aaron, half the time New York wants to fire Aaron.
Well,
that's the nature of the beast, baby.
That's the nature of New York. I mean, you lose 3 straight in pinstripes, and they're ready to, hang you up by a yard arm. So the fact of the matter is me personally, I was a bit skeptical as to why they were starting Flaherty game 1 when you had Yamamoto and Buehler on rest, ready to go game 1. But I can't question Doc because he's managed his pitching staff masterfully through the first 2 rounds. And if he tells the media that, okay, hey, maybe I want Yamamoto or Buehler to pitch both of their games, meaning 2 and 6 in Dodger Stadium, okay, I'm down with that. I still would say, why not Buehler and Yamamoto game 1 as opposed to Flaherty, and then maybe throw Flaherty game 3, because he's pitched in Yankee Stadium. He's pitched in the American League. He knows what that environment is like as opposed to the other 2. But who am I to question how Doc has managed his way through this? Like, people can say there've been throwaway games, when he's gone with bullpen games, but he's done it masterfully up to this point. And, until the Yankees win 4 before they lose 4, who am I to question?
I agree with you too. I mean, I think your eyes were seeing the same thing my eyes were seeing Flaherty's last outing. And that's why we go to the Yamamoto or we go to the Walker Buehler.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, Doc's looking pretty good. He's through the 5th and he hasn't given up anything. So,
well, he's keeping the breaking ball down. He's mixing the fastball in kind of as the surprise, but he's still got the adrenaline on the fastball to get it up there 96, 97, 98 when he needs to.
Question for you, Chipper. With the long layoff, how long does it take to get back into the groove when you've got 4 or 5 days off extended to get back into the World Series and the adrenaline, the crowd? If it was in Atlanta, the tomahawk chop and the fans be going crazy. How long does it take you to get locked back in?
First at bat. I mean,
cloud question of the night. There you go.
the first at bat in a World Series, first at bat in the postseason, first at bat in a World Series is different. It's like the first at bat of the season. It was the only other at bat I can really compare it to. It's in a league completely of its own, and it's kind of like those of us who played football. You're nervous until you get hit for the first time, and then once you get hit and tackled, and that adrenaline kind of wears off. It's just football. It's the same thing. It's just baseball. It's the same old game. It's 3 strikes, it's 4 balls, it's 3 outs, it's 27 outs, it's 9 innings, and it's not played any different. The success of the winning team, and Boone can attest to this, the success of the winning team is the one who can slow the game down. All right. At this particular time, you have so much adrenaline that the game kind of speeds up on you. And if you can slow the game down a little bit, that's the team that's going to be the most successful.
I'll tell you what I learned as time went on. And Rich, I watched Chipper at a young age. He came at, was it 95 is the first time we played you. I was in Cincinnati. Chipper was in Atlanta, and he was this young kid that came. Would you come up in 94 or was it 95?
Cup of coffee in 93, blew out my knee in 94.
Right. 95
was my rookie year.
So I'll tell you, Chipper's one of the most, you talk about slowing the game down. Chipper was one of the best I've ever seen at that. And it was from get-go. We were over there in Cincinnati kind of in awe of the patience Chipper had as a young player. And I remember thinking, who's this kid hitting third for the Braves with all those guys around him? And we'd watch him have big at bats and he's not even flinching. And I'm going, man, he's slowing that game down. When you talk about that, that's what when you brought that up, I thought of you as a young player in those postseasons as just a kid. Bobby had the wherewithal to throw you right in the 3-hole because he knew you were ready. He saw something special with you. It took me to the second half of my career until I got to Seattle to really realize big situation, runner on third, less than 2 outs, bases loaded. As a young most young players, man, bases loaded, I got to do something big. When finally I started to spin that around and go, when the bases are loaded, that dude's in trouble, not me. And that helped me the second half of my career. But in the first half, man, my hair's on fire. When I was Chipper Jones's age, I wasn't like that. I was like a kid. You had that uncanny ability to have kind of a veteran presence from the get-go.
Well, that was the influence of number one, Terry Pendleton, who was my mentor, third baseman, switch hitter, MVP, batting title, like consummate pro, consummate leader. He wasn't there. I was kind of filling his shoes coming in 95, but I still had Fred McGriff. I still had David Justice, Marquise Grissom, all these guys who kind of took me under their wing and were like, look, we just need you to be you. All right. Like, go out, hit for average. We know you're going to hit some homers. You got some speed. You steal some bases, but Bobby throwing me in a 3-hole was the best possible scenario because I got Grissom, 200 hits out of the 1-hole. Mark Lemke, one of the best situational hitters, bunt, hit and run, all that kind of stuff. And then I got, by the way, 500 homers and Fred McGriff and David Justice, who's got 3 or 4 rings at this point. So I've got all the protection in the world. I've constantly got guys on base. I've constantly got guys hitting for power behind me. Who are they going to come at? This guy. They're coming at me. And Bobby knew I could hit anybody's fastball. So, it put me, that's what great managers, great coaches do. They put their players in the best possible situation to be successful. And that was it. And it just kind of gave me the confidence, to be able to take it from there. But those guys really took me under the wing. There was a lot of sit downs with those guys behind the scenes where they're like, hey, you got to hit the ball from foul pole to foul pole. The home runs will come. You're going to get bigger, faster, stronger. But let's hit the ball from foul pole to foul pole. Let's concentrate on driving in 100. And if you drive in 100 and you're on base at a 400 clip, guess what? You're going to score 100 because I'm going to knock you in a lot of the time. So those guys were tremendous influences on me.
And Rich, to your point, you talk about the teams that Chipper was on and the Braves of the 90s. Believe me, I played against them 9 of those 10 years not on their team. And it wasn't fun going into Atlanta. The year I went to Atlanta, it was something different. Brian Jordan and myself came over. That year we were the new guys. And I remember we were at Disney. That's when we worked out at Disney. And I remember Bobby Cox addressing the team, and he kind of looked to me and Brian as the new guys and said, and what we do here is I put a lineup up and we steamroll our competition and we get to the postseason. That's what we do, win. And Atlanta was the first time. I had some really good teams in Cincinnati, 94 and 95. But my Braves experience was much different. It's not a matter of if we're going to the playoffs. It was more of that New York mentality. Let's get to the World Series and win a World Series. And it wasn't a matter when we walked into the locker room of spring training. It wasn't, are we going to have a good year? It's no, we're going to the postseason. It just is this year we win another World Series.
That's it.
That's
exactly right. And that was the mentality. So this is what I tell people about that 14 straight is that there's a difference between the Mets were really good, late 90s, early 2000s, made it to the World Series and everything. I mean, they had a really well put together club. The difference in us of the late 90s and early 2000s and the Mets were that we took the field, and this because you were a part of it. We took the field expecting to win. Mm-hmm. They took the field, at least against us, hoping to win. And that is a huge difference. When you take the field every night and you expect to win, you're going to win a majority. Now, granted, when you're throwing Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz and Millwood and whoever was our fifth, that year, we probably got a pretty good shot, to be in the game at least. But I think there's a mentality that goes along with winning and having to get to know Jeter over the years and experiencing some of the same things that I'm telling you guys that he expressed to me through the years. It's much the same mentality, and that takes you a long way, especially in this great game.
Hey, we're getting to the bottom of the fifth, no score, and it seems like the crowd's just ready, looking for any reason to explode. So I got to ask you this, Chipper. Glory days, you, Bobby Cox, like you said, David Justice. I mean, just watching on television the experience of the tomahawk chop and those Braves fans and how electric that ballpark was. Can you talk about that and the Braves fans and what that was like?
There's nothing that beats this. I think there's nothing that beats that atmosphere. I would say when you are at home and it stays nothing, the later it goes at home, you start to feel the pressure a little more because you're expected to hold serve at home and win games. And the longer you let that road team stay in it, the more pressure adds up on the home team. So I would say I'm not watching the game, but I can hear it in the background. Something's going on right now.
Kike Hernandez,
one of those
triple
guys
rattling in the corner.
Kike Hernandez triple. You got
Okay.
one out. You got Will Smith up, runner on third, less than 2, Chipper.
So that was that moment you were talking about,
Money
Chipper.
time.
So this is a big moment. And like I said, it could be a Muncy or it could be a Will Smith that comes through in a big spot such as this. And we could be looking at a 1-0, a 2-1 game here where situational hitting is very important. And it's not always the big guys who are thinking situational hitting. They're thinking, let's hit the ball out of the ballpark. Let's do maximum damage. But the guys at the end, every 90 feet in the postseason is paramount. And, you know, it sounds like they just scored, didn't they?
Sack
There
fly.
you go,
right
Will
field.
Smith.
There you go.
The sack
So that's
fly.
I'll tell you
situational
what.
hitting at its best.
And I'll tell you what, and nowadays I see the runner on third situation. It drives me crazy. Those are things that I could deal with an 0 for 4, but that runner on third, less than 2, leaving them out. Those are the things us as hitters, we lose sleep over.
Mhm.
It's not like we got to hit a home run. Usually a sack fly is unbelievable. And in
Or a
tough
ground ball to short. Or
a
ground
tough
ball to
AB,
short.
right. Somebody's tough on you. You'll take that 16 hopper to short because that's a point for my team.
Yep.
Put it on the board. Yeah, you want the sack fly. You're 0 for 0. But getting that ribby, they always used to tell me your average goes up and down, but they can never take away a ribby. And that was
Willie Stargell always said, those RBIs, they keep stacking, baby. They keep
That's
stacking.
right. That's right.
You know,
Average
and
goes
when
up
you
and down.
get the opportunity with a guy on third and less than 2 outs, I don't care if the infield's in. I don't care if the infield's back. If you can hit a fly ball to center field or a ground ball to shortstop to get that runner in, let me tell you something. I sleep a hell of a lot better. 0 for 3 with an RBI in my back pocket than I do
Without a
0
doubt.
for 4 with nothing produced.
Without a doubt.
So,
Well, Chipper Jones, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was a lot of fun. Good catching up. I will see you down the road when I see you. And Richie, you got anything for him on the way out?
No, this has been fantastic. I've got chills just thinking about the tomahawk chop. And like you said,
Are you
later
a fanboy now, Rich? you
no,
fanboying
I'll be professional with Chipper Jones, but
All right.
it was cool just to watch those games. And, we're seeing this here at Dodger Stadium. The fans just waiting to get into this. And now they picked up that sack fly and 1-0. Now the tension goes. Now now the pressure builds.
this is what it's all about, guys. And you're gonna have to get a big swing from New York coming down the stretch to tie this thing up or put them ahead. The Dodgers have done the little things. They've played situational baseball up to this point. Flaherty, tremendous outing to get them to this point. Now I'm sure they're probably going to turn it over to a pretty dominant bullpen, and we'll see these bullpens kind of go at it for the next 3 or 4 innings.
All right, Chip. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so
See you,
much
buddy.
for doing this.
All right,
man.
take care. Thank you. Chipper Jones joining us here on the Bret Boone Podcast Live. That was fun.
I'll tell
Brett.
you what, Rich, Chipper, everybody, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best players I've ever played with. He is. And that's with me talking about Griffey, the Griffies that I've played with. Chipper's all around. He really was. He was one of the most poised guys I ever played with and just a great player. I've got to go to the restroom, so you take it over.
I will carry it. I will carry it for you for just a moment. You take a little bit of a break, Brett, and then we'll come right back. And again, since we're doing this live here, and change everything over here. Bret will be back in just a second. Here's what we have scheduled coming up on this live version of the Bret Boone podcast. Again, just a reminder, if you're just tuning in and you're looking on YouTube and you go, wait a minute, what's going on the Odyssey Radio Network? What's going on the Infinity Sports Network? What's going on at WFAN? Bret Boone and I have taken over with the Bret Boone podcast live for a World Series Game 1 watch party. So earlier we had Richie Sexson join us for a couple innings. We just got a chance to sit down with Hall of Famer Chipper Jones. Mike Piazza is going to be joining us here momentarily. And then a little bit later, we'll have Tino Martinez join us as well. So we have a couple questions that people have popped in and some comments. And this one, Alan Marlin says, does the manager make the call, or does the front office, Cashman and Friedman, dictate who starts games, or does the manager have the autonomy to make that call? Well, let me jump in. I'll take this one real quick, Alan, and we'll get Bret's thoughts on this as well. So I actually worked with Andruw Friedman in Tampa Bay, and Bret knows Brian Cashman very, very well through his brother. So Alan wants to know, does the manager make the call, or the front office dictate who starts games, or does the manager have the autonomy to make that call? I think it's all the above, Bret. I think in today's day and age, a lot of information comes downstairs from the front office. They have people that work up there on algorithms, and they rewrite the algorithm every day. And there's a young man that'll walk down with the binder, and he'll hand it to the manager in just about every clubhouse in baseball. And if you've got a really good combination, Dave Roberts and Andruw Friedman, Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone, it becomes a collaboration. And I think that Cash gets an input, and then he respects Aaron's input. And together, I think they come up with a collaboration on what my lineup and my starting rotation is going to look like. Agree or disagree, Bret?
Well, I think it is a little bit different than it was back in my generation. Say even 10 years ago, I think it's different in the Bobby Valentine and the Lou Piniella and pick the Bobby Cox. You just had Chipper Jones on the show. It's different now because the data, the algorithms, like you mentioned, they've become so prominent in baseball. We have so much information at our fingertips. A lot more people are involved in making the decision. Now, I'll tell you what, I don't even get into the weeds with Aaron because I don't want to know some of these things. So, but I think, it's much different than the old days where it's Bobby Cox, it's Leo Mazzoni, and they're making all the decisions mid-game. I think a lot of the decisions nowadays are pre-planned before the game.
So, and we have more questions. We'll follow up on this. I think we have our next guest ready to go. If he wants to give me a thumbs up, we'll bring him in. All right, he's ready to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in Hall of Famer Mike Piazza to join us here on the Bret Boone podcast live as we are watching the World Series. It's 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Mike Piazza, how are you?
I'm good. I'm about to get horizontal on this couch here. A little
very nice. Michael, thanks for making it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you.
Hey, Rich, Mike's now, he lives over he lives over the lake. So he's everywhere. He's in Europe, he's in Italy, just went golfing in Scotland. Now he's in Miami. He's all over the place. Now, serious note, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the program.
No, man, it's good to see you. Yeah, it's been great. I just got back from Scotland, and if you're a golfer, you told me you never get over there, man. It's definitely the heaven of golf. So you got to make a trip one of these days.
I got to do it. It's different. You watch the Open, and it's like that's my favorite thing to watch these days. I mean, I like baseball. I kind of casually watch football. Do I have a bet on it? I'm not a real big hoop guy anymore.
Yeah.
But I love watching golf, and especially the big tournaments.
Yeah, and it is a different type of game. I mean, I played Carnoustie, the old course in Kingsbarn, and it was it's you get a little more run. The turf is firm because the soil's got a lot more clay. It's fun, it's just different. Obviously you get a lot of wind and rain, but it's a different game than playing in Florida. But it's definitely worth the trip if you get a chance.
Was it windy in Scotland?
It's always windy.
Yeah.
It's windy, and it's good for your game. I mean, you come back here, like I just played yesterday here in Florida, and it was, I don't want to say it was easy. It's never an easy game, but of course the conditions aren't as demanding. So
I have a question, Mike. How far did you and Booney grow up away from each other? So Booney, where'd you grow up? In Jersey.
He's going to know the landscape much more than me. I grew up in the Cherry Hill area, so I was 30 minutes over the Walt Whitman Bridge from the vet.
Yeah, I knew a lot of the Phillies guys lived in Jersey. I was on the Pennsylvania side. I was closer to like King of Prussia, Valley Forge. That was where my family was from. But yeah, I remember going to the Phillies games in the '70s and obviously watching Boone's dad, Brad, and Tim McCarver were behind the plate, and um, yeah, little maybe a date myself when I came there. When I was a little younger, it was Willie Montanez and Dave Cash and
Oh, those are the
Larry
days,
Boa.
though, man. Those are the days.
Remember Willie Montanez with the glove? He would always
Oh
do the
yeah, the
flare.
hot dog, the hot dog.
Yeah, no, he
That's
was
back
great.
nowadays. That would be nothing, but
No, it's
consider
true.
that was like big time.
Yeah,
He used
everyone
to
used.
he used to catch the pop up, and he would go like that under his. I remember Montanez. Richie Hebner was there for a minute.
Richie Hebner, of course, Schmitty, the Bull, Gary Maddox, Bake McBride with the fro coming out of
Unbelievable.
the hat. It
And
was
he
class.
used to have the pick in his hair.
Yeah, that's true.
So
And
because
then
you're all Philly, right? You're an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
So you and Aaron have something in common then.
I did, and I remember a couple of photos. It's funny. There's some photos online from Fan Appreciation Day when I was a kid, with Schmitty and Tug McGraw and I think Maddox as well. I was just watching Judge unfortunately swing through one, but in any event, yeah, I remember watching the on the program or the yearbook. I remember seeing Bob Boone with the kids, and it was really cool because I'm sure you were in that shot. And then eventually, then you went to California, right?
Dad got traded to the Angels in I think '81, right? So
That's
about
right.
the back east, though. Rich, here's the deal with back east kids. When you're a kid and you're from Jersey, you're from Philly, and your dad tells you we're moving to California, it's not just a simple, oh, okay, Dad, whatever you need. It's no, California surfs up, and I'm not going. I'll tell you, it took me about a month because you don't want to leave your buddies. I left after my freshman year in high school. You don't want to leave your buddies, like any kid. But I got to Cali, and after a while, I'm like, this place is pretty cool. So, and I loved it. And I loved it. From a baseball perspective, it didn't make any sense for us to stay in New Jersey when he's playing for the Angels. He tried it one summer where he let us stay. And he's like, no, I want the family with me. And that's how I started Southern Cal and went to college in LA. And then, went on our journey and our careers. And then it was all said and done. I moved back here. So Stanton just hit a homer.
Oh, he just got a hold of one.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Let me guess, slider.
It was a cement mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of sat there on a table.
2-run.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Have you been watching the postseason much, Michael?
I haven't. I mean, obviously, I've been overseas. It's been tough. I've been trying to check out some of the highlights on the internet, but yeah, I mean, watching my team, obviously, the Mets have a pretty good run. I was in London when they played the Phillies there, and they seemed to completely turn it around after that series. I'm just watching that swing. Yeah, that ball was just sitting there. That's what we used to call a cement mixer. It was just kind of just saying, hit me.
And I'll tell you what, with Stanton, I can almost, you can tell when Stanton's sitting on a pitch, and I'm wondering, can the pitcher tell he's sitting on the pitch? But when he's locked in and he's sitting on a pitch and you throw it, I think that's his 5th home run of the postseason. And I thought he was a big key for them this year. I thought he was a big key for them because the Judge is going to win the MVP. If it weren't for Judge, Soto would have won the MVP. And then you got Stanton, but I think he's so important just being a force in the middle of that lineup.
Well, and you're right. I mean, the thing is, when you have those 3 quality hitters in the lineup like that, you would imagine that unless you run into an exceptional pitcher, all those guys aren't going to be slumping at the same time. So the fact that you have such a modern day murderer's row, as a pitcher, and I know this as a catcher from catching, when you're forced to make every single pitch quality against great hitters, eventually, one of our trainers used to have, I can't say because it's a dirty expression, but something about the cork coming out of something. You know what I mean? Like, but the point is this: it's like you put pressure on something, eventually it's going to pop. And that's what's the most difficult part, is when you're catching against a lineup like this. I mean, I remember after going 2-3 innings against, like, you just had Chipper on, you just had Larry on. I mean, it was like, man, once we get through, it was like going through labor, I guess, in the hospital. It's really difficult to get through those quality lineups inning after inning after inning. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not into predictions, but the Yankees have a very good ball club, and it seems like they're playing well now.
I'm interested. Let's take it from a catcher's perspective. Because, we have hitters meetings and we got pitchers meetings for every series. And if you had a team where you had, let's use the Yankees of current, and you got a Judge and a Soto. What is your conversation with your pitcher as far as how are we going to treat them? Who is not going to let us? Who's not going to beat us, or who you're going to try not to let you beat them, and at all costs avoid this guy?
Well,
how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, then it really comes down to the rest of the lineup around them, because then the guys that aren't the big dogs have to put those guys in a situation where you can pitch around them. But as you said, there would be situations like, obviously, if you have a base open, it gives you more freedom, I guess, or it gives you a little bit more breathing room, whereas you can expand the strike zone earlier and see how aggressive they are. But like I said, when you have these quality hitters stacked up, you just have to sometimes go at them. I mean, when I was with the Mets, we did that with Barry Bonds sometimes. We were like just going, listen, he's going to beat us eventually. Let's just try and be aggressive, because I think when you are too tentative sometimes and you're tap dancing around the landmine, you eventually make a mistake just based on being too tepid. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I remember talking to Jim Thome about this. Sometimes I think as a pitcher, sometimes you could be a little bit too tentative, and sometimes you just have to say, "Hey, man, hit this over the moon." And this is that cat and mouse game. Whereas if you get a little like you're just feeling for the strike zone, then as a hitter, I would feel like this guy does not want to make a mistake to me. He's a little scared. Right. Figuratively. So that would give me the advantage. But if a guy was just coming right at me with this hard stuff, sometimes that would put me on my heels. So this is what you have to navigate. And as far as, who's hot or who's not, that does come into play a little bit, I would say. But ultimately, it really comes down to the situation and the guys around you putting the best hitters in those situations to do damage.
I think when we're talking to Chipper about the big guys in the lineup, you got obviously the Shohei Ohtani and the Betts and the Freddie Freemans for the Dodgers. They got a pretty good second tier too. They got Teoscar Hernandez, who hit 32 home runs this year. Max Muncy, who was hot in the last series, reached base 12 at bats in a row. So you got guys you got secondary players. I think a lot of times in the postseason, especially in the end in the World Series, you're going to be, as a catcher, you're going to be going out of your way to avoid Betts or Ohtani hurting you, Soto or Judge hurting you. And a lot of times it's put on the second, the Will Smiths of the world, Jazz Chisholms of the world, Verdugo, maybe a Volpe, a KK Hernandez, who's had a big postseason. A lot of times it comes down to the lesser known player.
Well, let's be honest, you're not going to get to the World Series without a balanced lineup. You're just not, because if you have a lot of holes that pitchers and bullpens can exploit, they're going to do it. So generally, you're going to have those guys all up and down the line that can do damage. And then in this situation, you just have to say, all right, we're going to roll the dice with this guy. I mean, when a guy was, again, we had a trainer of the Dodgers, and when somebody was slumping, he would say, you can't pitch around everyone to get to Mike. He would say, you can't pitch around everyone to get to Booty. You know what I mean? So
that's right. Yeah,
eventually you do have to kind of say, listen, man, we have to go at it. And it really comes down to pitching as well. I mean, a pitcher's he's got to execute. You got to make good pitches, man. You have to expand the zone in the right situations. And a lot of that just comes down to chance. I mean, in the World Series, listen, man, you got great pitching staffs, you got balanced lineups. Obviously, you got defense and speed, and you just got to hope where they hit them. They hit them where when you're on offense, get some timely hits, catch the ball, just try to avoid some major mistakes, play good defense, and that's baseball, man. Sometimes you just have some tough breaks.
I think you made a great point. And I don't think it's talked about enough. And I think for our generation, Bonds is probably the greatest example of just someone, when he was in his heyday, it was like unbelievable. It's like we were playing with someone from another planet. And I always used to think people were I've never seen pitchers more scared of a hitter than Barry Bonds. And I always used to think, though, because when I get on a mini run, you mentioned it, you can feel that pitcher scared of you a little bit. And that kind of gives you that puff your chest out like, this guy's scared to death of me. Your demeanor changes. Now it's quite the reversal. When you're not, I remember when I was struggling, I was having a rough time, I'd try to fake it on the way to the plate like I'm feeling good. And it's like that pitcher knows that I'm not feeling it. He knows it. And it's always boom, strike one, outside corner, black. But it's something, you're right, when you get pitched around so much, some of these guys do, it is almost, even if you're struggling, you bring it back. You bring that confidence back, like they're scared to death of me. And I always thought that about Barry. I said, they're so scared of him. He just had so much confidence that if you miss in the zone, this ball's not coming back. I think that's a great point in pitching around people.
Well, and truthfully, I mean, I played against Barry, when he was with the Giants and I was with the Dodgers my first few years. And let's be honest, I mean, he was always a great hitter. And then I remember, what was the one year where they walked him with the bases loaded? I forget who was hitting behind him. I think he was with the Giants. It might have been Brett Maine was hitting behind him.
Yeah, Bob Brenly walked him with the bases loaded to get to Maynard.
And, again, it's a tribute to Barry. But when I watched that, I said to myself, that's just something wrong with the game. As much as it's probably a smart move, I still thought to myself, this is just something that I wouldn't be on. But I mean, I know it's Barry Bonds, but in that situation, I think you just got to go at him. And okay, you may walk him, but the intentional walk or whatever, I wasn't really on board with that, because again, even the greatest hitters in history, I mean, guys that are hitting 320, they're still going to make outs. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, there's a great game on YouTube I watched, and it was one of the greatest games I ever caught, was Bobby Jones, the right-handed one from Fresno against the Mets. He pitched, I think, a one-hitter against the Giants. It was in the divisional series, and he struck out Barry Bonds twice, and I think he flied out once. And I remember in the meeting before the game, and obviously he was a little, pumped up, and he's like, "What are we gonna do with Barry?" I said, "We're just gonna go right at him, dude." I said, honestly, the conditions weren't great. It was a little cold. It was at Shea, which is not a great place to play. I said, "Man, let's just let him hit it over the moon." And he's like, "What? Are you serious?" And I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Listen, if we start really getting too tentative, you're gonna get guys on base, and then he's gonna do really good damage." I mean, I remember, I think it was Catfish Hunter or someone said he'd rather give up a home run, a solo home run for 9 innings than a 3-run home run in the second inning. Because you're just, the guys that really hurt you, the guys you walk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what hurt the Mets. I think I was watching the Mets series against the Dodgers. In the first 3 games, they had something like 20-something walks. You're not going to win ball games when you walk guys. And yeah, it is Barry Bonds or Jim Thome or Albert Bell. I mean, all these great hitters of the past. And they are great. But like I said, you can make them greater when you just treat them so special that, like you said, you're terrified to face them. And eventually, when you do have to pitch to them, you don't really know what to do, because you're kind of like, well, we've walked him 3 times. We don't know what he can hit or not hit. And sometimes, like I said, I mean, the greatest hitters in the game still make 7 out of 10 outs.
I was on a Reds team in the mid-90s playing Barry. It might have been late 90s. We walked him in a 1-0 game with a right-hander. We intentionally walked him with no outs in the 9th inning in a 1-0 ball game. And I went, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
He steals second.
There you go.
And you know he's going to steal second. If it's a lefty, you can hold him on. And I remember, Mike, I walked over to him, and, you know, Barry at the time probably wasn't the friendliest guy on earth.
Mhm.
But I walk up to him, and I say, hey, Barry. I said, I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of things in my life. I said, that's impressive right there. That's impressive. And you know what he said? He took his helmet off, and he said, shit, Booney, I'd have done the same thing. And I had no answer for him. I'm like, you're right. You're right. Because he was, you know, he was that. But I understand what you're saying, too. If you show somebody you're so scared of them, after a while, it's like, man, I wasn't feeling very good about my swing right now. I wasn't picking up the spin, but now I'm really picking it up just because I see how scared you are of my situation.
Yeah. And then on the other side, as a hitter, like I was watching Stanton's first couple of bats, and obviously he was expanding the strike zone a little bit, and they were making some good pitches to him. But as a hitter, again, on the reverse side, for me, if I was struggling or if I was pressing, especially in these situations, it just takes one. You know what I mean? You just have to try to shrink the strike zone a little bit and try something a little different. And it just takes one, like you said, one hanging breaking ball, or someone
change your whole night.
That's it. And that's what's the greatest thing about the game. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. Someone said to me one time, you just got to stay in the middle. I mean, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the greatest thing about our game, is that it's a game of atonement. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. And then you guys were talking earlier about all the statistics, and, you know, I managed last Classic with Italy, and, you know, the guys had the scouting reports in their pockets, and at that time they had banned the shift. You remember, guys? They were still doing the shift, and I was like, "Where's our second baseman? Like, why is he playing over there?" And it was a little unorthodox for me, and I kind of trusted it. I trusted the data. I mean, I said, "Okay, I'm definitely a dinosaur, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks." But I was willing to at least listen to some of the logic, or some of the reasoning why they're doing that today. And again, I mean, I kind of let it say fine. That's fine, because I think when we're in there, nothing's the same. You know, that's what's frustrating for me, because when you're talking about, well, was Babe Ruth as good a hitter as Henry Aaron, or was Henry Aaron as good a hitter as modern day guys? It's just so tough to compare eras, because look how much the game has changed in the last 10 years. I mean, with all the analytics and whatnot. So when I hear those arguments, I kind of get a little cynical and say, all right, whatever, really, because it's so tough, even from the 70s in today as well. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I agree with you, because it's like you can't control generation, because you look at Babe Ruth. Does he physically look like he could compete with today's athletes? Absolutely not. But in his day, he was hitting more home runs than other teams. Did he dominate his generation? Back then, he was the best of the best of the best. So, yes, he's one of the greatest of all time. That's how I look at it. It's, did you dominate your generation? If you did, that puts you on that wall of, you know, in that conversation of greatest of all time. And no, you can't compare an athlete. I used to laugh, and this you'll be able to relate to this. So this is during you know, our day, and I had a grandpa. I'll tell you, Ray Boone was about the proudest grandpa you could imagine, of his generation, of his time. He would defend it to the end, and he'd come up to me, Mike, after a game, and go, you know, first of all, he was. If I go 3 for 4, he goes, what happened that fourth at bat? That's the first question coming out of the tunnel. But it was also like, yeah, this Randy Johnson guy, he ain't no Bob Feller. And I'd be like, Gramps, Randy's pretty good. He ain't like Feller. You know, every hitter, he had to go back. He ain't no Ted Williams. And Barry's pretty good, man. He's a pretty good hitter. So I understand that.
But let me jump in here. So the Yankees just took the lead 2-1. Yeah. They come back after Cole's on the bench for a little bit. Edmonds picks up a double, and now Shohei's up.
Mike,
give me your thoughts.
Open. So Cole looks like he's still throwing pretty well. There's a base open now. I mean, I would just throw him 4 bastard pitches, man, all in his hands. You don't want to make a mistake here with the base open. That's up the middle. That's a little nubber.
They get him
Good
at
play.
first. Move the runner over.
Yeah. And, just looking at Ohtani's first couple of bats, he looked a little anxious, looked like he was pressing a little bit. So I also think in that situation, you don't want to turn into a huge inning. So, yeah, I mean, you're just not going to, in that situation, you're going to pitch to him, I think. It's up to the pitcher sometimes as well. So if I was the manager and Cole's like, hey, I want to go at him, then I'm going to say go at him because I like that attitude.
And you also got to think Mookie Betts is up next. He's hit 4 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, if you get to patty cake here, you can find yourself bases loaded with, like you said, those late hitters up. It's a good. I mean, Cole looks like he's throwing the ball really well. So, I'll
tell you what, that didn't look much about what Ohtani just did. He just hit a chopper. What did he do? He got that runner to third. He gives
that's
sac fly situation.
And so now here, see, this is where I think in the old days you would really try to. I don't know how much he has left, but you got to obviously go for a strikeout here. I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to strike the guy out, so you're just trying to prevent contact here. That's a good pitch. I mean, look at this good breaking ball. It gets off the barrel. I don't know what he's like in. I haven't seen his hot chart. But right now, it's 1 ball, 2 strikes. I would just stay away from the middle of the plate. I go in off the plate. I don't know if he has a hole. See, it looks like he's pretty quick in, so I might just go back to a breaking ball, try and strike him out of here. That's high fastball, yeah. See, the only thing about going in, I remember catching a guy, Kevin Gross. He didn't like going in these situations because, the hitters are so strong. They could flip it out in the outfield. You know what I mean?
Right. No,
but you got to go in. You know what I mean? And then you got to get guys off the plate. So you got to move their feet. So it's 2-2. I mean, listen, you still got a base open. I remember Oral Hirsch, I just say you got a couple of hitters to get it out here. You know what I mean? So you could you don't have to throw a strike per se.
Oh, that's the ultimate right there. Hanger, he smokes it for an out.
He hits a bullet right to Chisholm, goes over to first, and they strand the runner there. So now there's 2 away. So that's a big play right there.
And that ball was in the middle of the plate too. I don't think that was a great pitch. Wow. Yeah, that was a rocket. He knows it. Yeah.
He got away with one.
He did. That ball was kissed. Yeah. But hey.
How much of a little fist bump do you give as a catcher? All right, there you go. One more.
No, I'm still sweating right now.
And by the way,
you got Freddie Freeman coming up next.
By the way, Rich, as a hitter, you don't care that you just smoked that ball. You didn't get the job done.
No,
it's true.
Boone's in there snapping in the dugout.
No, I'm not. That was maybe.
I mean, he still looks like he's throwing the ball well. Oh, is that off the barrel? It's not
he's
enough.
going to have it. Nope, not enough.
Little
so he gets out of the inning. There you go.
Wow.
Little trademark.
Hey, Mike, we have some people that have got a couple of comments. One, Mike Piazza, my favorite Met of all time. Cody says, to heck with the World Series. He wants to talk about the Mets. Somebody else wants to know the toughest pitcher. And I got a bunch of people that have said, all right, it's World Series time. One of the most famous World Series stories of all time. Mike, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask. I'm going, right?
You're killing him, Rich. I've heard this before. I've heard it.
Well, I've heard it from Charlie Relaford's point of view because
what did Charlie say?
Charlie said Charlie was most proud that the photo that they took, his eyes never closed because he couldn't believe what was going on as he's following you up the base path. We're talking about Mike and Roger Clemens in the Subway Series. So a couple people have asked, so I'll ask for them. They want to hear the story.
Well, I don't want to get elusive. I've talked to the story about it ad nauseum, but I will say the most frustrating thing about that series. I mean, honestly, I don't really know, and I'm being as objective as I can be. I don't really know how much of that incident or that event had really on the World Series. Todd Zeile hit a ball off the top of the wall, it was like 2 inches from being a home run. And Tino, was it Perez? Yeah, Tino Perez, right?
Yeah.
He pulled up. He thought it was a home run. He didn't score. Jeter threw him out at home on a relay. And, the only reason why I mention that is, like, people will look at that event. That was the second game, correct? Yeah. So we just kind of made mistakes in that series. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really know in particularly if that really had that much an effect on the event of us unfortunately not winning the World Series. I mean, I tell people all the time, everyone was like, oh, you should have charged. And if I would have got thrown out of that game, I hit a home run, and Boone will probably tell you this. Jeff Nelson, to me, is probably one of the nastiest pitchers for a right-hand hitter.
Yeah.
And
Sidewinder, slider.
And I think it was 5-1 or 5-2. And I came up against Nelson later in the game, and I'm like thinking, all right, I said, I'm not going to hit his slider. There's no way I'm going to touch it. So I'm just going to cheat to an inside fastball, and hopefully I get it. And I did. And I hit it off the foul pole. And so if, I tell people, if I would have got thrown out of that game, or, maybe some of the UFC crowd would want us to see us fight. And maybe, if there was a little bit less of an ambiguity about the event, we could have been fighting, because obviously we had some bad blood going back even to the season. But at the end of the day, I'm just a positive person. I just say to myself, listen, man, I had 2 World Series home runs. Unfortunately, we didn't win it. So I kind of really worry about dwell on that.
I'll tell you what, Rich, I'll help him out. I'm a kid. I'm coming up. This is like my 4th game in the big leagues. And here's how the story goes. I'm in Seattle. It's 1992. Harold Reynolds is the second baseman in Seattle. I'm the heir apparent. We're sat down when I get to big leagues. They said, Harold, you're gonna play 2 days a week. Bret's gonna play 4 or 5. Okay, that's the way it is. It happened to me at the end of my career. It happens to everybody. So this is the story goes. And after I found out, and this is back in the day, Mike, where you knew when you were a rookie, there were different rules than there is now. You come up, you're swinging hard.
Yeah.
You got a target on your back, and you kind of got to earn your stripes. So the story goes, Harold's we're at Fenway Park. It's my first time facing Clemens. It's the day before. And I guess Clemens makes a reference to Harold that says, hey, if this little Boone kid, this Boone rookie takes that big swing on me, I'm going to flip him. Well, Harold doesn't tell me. Next day, we're facing Clemens. My first at bat, I hit a bullet up the middle for a knock. Roger's yelling at me. I'm at first base, and you talk about, should you charge, should you not? So he's yelling at me, and it's like my 4th game in the big leagues. I got Clemens screaming at me, and I'm like, I can't do anything about this. I'm just this rookie, this and that. Anyway, I end up scoring. I come up my next at bat. He throws me a cutter away, first pitch, strike 1. Next pitch hits me in the head.
Oof.
I'm laying in the dirt, Michael, and I'm thinking, I gotta go get him. I can't go get him. I just got here. It was one of those cat and mouse. Come to find out, Harold didn't tell me till after. Harold told me Kevin Mitchell's a teammate of mine. He puts Harold in a stranglehold and said, you ever withhold information from a teammate again?
Oh
and that's
God.
that's what I dealt with Roger early in my career. So to help Michael out, yeah, Roger was in the wrong. He threw the bat. It wasn't an object he didn't think it was. And it was kind of a weak move. But I'm helping him out because Roger did the same thing to me. And it was just kind of those guys back in the day thinking, oh, we'll drill you. We'll hit you. I used to laugh at Nolan Ryan. Oh, I'll hit you. Oh, okay. Now I'm scared. All that is ball 1 or I go to first.
But, and I think, and again, I don't want anybody to take this out of context, and I'm not talking specifically about anybody. But, I mean, when Pedro Martinez was with the Expos, he would deck your ass. he would low Brit, but the point is he had to hit, and I think before the DH, and again, I don't think anybody would argue that any pitcher in the American League at that time, the DH, it's just a different energy, right? Like if you don't have to go up into the batter's box, and I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're Pedro, Roger, Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, all these guys. Let's just be honest. I mean, I don't think anybody. It really would be a bad take or a bad look if you're really consciously trying to hurt someone. Of course, these pitchers, they do have to establish the play. And I know as a catcher, you got to throw in, you got to move people's feet. And back then too, the whole unwritten the code was different. I know coming up that let's be honest, the rules were different. And nowadays, I guess if you suspected of hit with someone, you could get thrown out. And that's changed a lot. I mean, some people argue for the better, for the worse. It is what it is. I mean, let's be honest, as I'm a hockey fan more or less, and back in the 70s, I mean, you would see brawls that would last for 10 minutes. And now that even though there's still a lot of fighting, the game's changed, the energy has changed a little bit. So I don't know what my point is, but ultimately I'll
tease Bret about the bat flips. Do you like the new school of the celebration and you get a hit and you're running to first doing a cartwheel?
Me? You asking me or Bret?
Yeah, no, you, Mike.
I think it's a little much myself. I like stuff that's spontaneous. I mean, if it's choreographed, if someone says, "Oh, if I hit a home run, I'm going to flip the bat," I find that a little cheesy. You know what I mean? Like I flipped the bat a few times. I mean, off Mendoza, but that was like just spontaneous. You know what I mean? Like if you're pumped up, it's a big game, and you hit a big bomb, and it just releases out of your hand. But things when they look a little contrived, for me, it's just a little bit too much. I'm not a big fan of that.
And I'm with you. The premeditation of the bat flip is pathetic.
I'm not that old man. I'm not the get off my lawn, back when I played guy. But yeah, I mean, I think today with social media and everyone just trying to kind of set themselves different, set themselves apart, maybe it gets a little too carried away. Because I think ultimately I don't want things to take away from the actual act of brilliance. Like I would have always wanted to admire a home run for what it was. And I think if you're doing the hokey pokey after you hit the home run, it looks a little odd. But that's just me. That's a good pitch there, actually. So he's fired up. It's good.
Gratterall. And that bullpen's nasty. Both bullpens.
Yeah, no, you could tell.
Potential to be nasty. Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, we were talking earlier about the pitcher, the starter now not going deep and having bullpen games. It's like it's like a spring training game in a way, every guy throwing 2 innings.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot. As a hitter, I don't know how I would react. I think I would just try to maybe, if you have one time again against the guy, you're not going to get a lot of mistakes. You just have to roll the dice and try to sit on something.
Mike, I asked Chipper this. You're the best to ask this. You played for the Dodgers. You played for the Mets. Difference in the postseason in L.A. versus New York. For me, I always thought the sky was darker. It was always going to be cold. I was always going to have long sleeves. It was almost like it was kind of a scary scenario. Whereas L.A., it seemed it was good weather. I had short sleeves on. It was bright. It's like I heard the birds chirping. That's what I told Chipper. There's definitely a difference between postseason baseball in New York, postseason baseball in L.A. You did both. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, so if this game started at 8, correct, and that's 5 o'clock in L.A., or did it start?
No, you're right.
5 in L.A. Yeah.
5 in L.A., 8 East Coast.
Yeah. See, I never liked that. We played. I think the Reds were the first playoffs we played, and the first game was at 5, and I didn't like the shadows for that. But yeah, of course, the weather could be bad in New York. But to me, this probably growing up in the Philly area, it doesn't really feel like the World Series or playoff baseball if it isn't crispy and cold outside. Right. So it didn't bother me so much with the Dodgers. Obviously, it's always, as a hitter and as an athlete, it's always good to have good weather. But one thing I enjoyed about being in New York, at least being in Shea for the playoffs, the times we were in the playoffs, is we knew that other teams didn't like to play there. I mean, that was one thing back even the Mets in the 86. I mean, I remember guys telling me they're facing Gooden and all the great pitchers of the Mets and those in the 80s, Dave Cohn and all these guys. I mean, Eric Anthony told me one time, remember Eric Anthony told me,
Yeah, I
he
believe
goes,
he was a teammate.
he goes, bro, we go into Shea, bro, and you leave there with no hits. Like, the weekend series. He goes, if you like 0 for 12, you're facing, Gooden, you're facing Cone, you're facing Aguilera and Ron Darling and all these guys, just throwing nasty stuff. So I never forget that. He told me, he goes, bro, you go into Shea. He goes,
I didn't like Shea. I didn't like airplanes always flying over.
I didn't either.
I didn't like it.
I
Visiting
didn't either,
clubhouse
man.
is terrible.
But once I got there, I figured I better make the most of it. But we knew that other teams didn't like to play there. We knew that. And then in April one time, I mean, I forget what year it was. The wind was just coming off the water. And man, to hit a home run there from gap to gap reading center field, you had to square it up and you had to compress that baseball because that's where home runs went to die out there. So it was a tough place to play. Cole's in 7th here, still pitching. How many pitches does he have? I don't have.
I just looked that up. 85, 59 for strikes.
I'll tell you what, both these guys coming in, I had big expectations for Cole. I think if the Yankees are going to win this series, but Flaherty, the way he's bounced back, he's kind of been like tale of two different. He's been two different guys. One guy's going 7,
he
giving up
did
9.
a great job. I mean, he
really did. He really did.
Look,
people questioning starting Flaherty tonight over Yamamoto, I being one of them, and he just showed me why Doc Roberts started him.
And I think the first game is always good to win, but so much can happen in the 7-game series. So there's going to be a lot of baseball. So that was like a fight-off swing. Yeah, it looks like Cole. I mean, the good thing too about a pitcher, a great pitcher in these situations is like these are the innings that. I mean, Tommy Lasorda used to say, you wouldn't trust someone to go to Las Vegas with your wallet, would you? I mean, it's your game. You want to finish the game, and I think that's another thing that's changed is starting pitchers. I mean, Bob Gibson, Timmy McCarver told me one time, like, if a manager went out there, he would, I can't use profanity, but he would say, what are you doing out here? Get the hell out of here, turn around and go back to the effing dugout. And he's like, no, man, I'm just coming out. He goes, no, don't tell me that. So talk about old school, man. Guys that are like going to beat your ass if you come to take them out of the ball game.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's pretty locked in.
Somebody, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, Mike, somebody asked on the chat about Fernando Valenzuela. We're watching the game. You see that number 34. Behind the mound over there. So I was going to ask you just to comment. They had the moment for him before the ball game.
No, I mean, I played in Mexico and I played in Navajo where he was from, and he was a legend. And another thing, talk about hitting. People forget Fernando could freaking hit, man. They used to call him the Mexican Babe Ruth, actually. So, an incredible guy, a guy who I think. That story of coming from Navajo, Mexico, and coming from a really provincial, remote area, being a star in LA, and obviously a huge Mexican-American community there, captured the emotion of what it was like, the Mexican-American experience. And really, and then also too, Booney, how many guys throw a screwball today?
I was saying it was Fernando and it was Tug McGraw, the only two I ever knew back then.
A lot of people don't know too. Tommy Lasorda told me that Fernando played with another Mexican pitcher. I think it was Bobby Castillo, and Bobby Castillo taught him the screwball. So that was a great pitch for him. I faced Fernando. I think he was with the Phillies. He actually struck me out. I think it was a high fastball because I was sitting on off speed. And he snuck a high fastball by me. So
he wore me out. I think I got because when Fernando passed away and we were talking about it, and people bring it up, oh, you were 3 for 15 off him. I said, I know I couldn't get a hit, but he wasn't throwing screwballs in the end. He was throwing cutters.
Yeah, no, and that's a good pitch for a lefty, obviously to a big, to a big swinging right-hander. I always liked the cutter. I thought the cutter was a great pitch. I mean, we were talking about great hitters. I don't remember Steve Finley when he was with the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Man, for a few years, you couldn't get him out. And he was a great outfielder with a good arm, and he was on fire. And I remember one time we threw him like a cutter in on his hands, and he couldn't keep that ball fair. So for every time after that, in big situations, I would just try to get in there a little bit and get a strike, and then maybe expand the strike zone. So sometimes you find a little advantage by accident. But yeah, that's the one danger too. When someone has a notorious pitch and you're sitting on that pitch all the time, you almost give it too much respect. You get beat by something else. So that's when you just have to kind of see the ball hit the ball.
A couple comments. Alan said, credit to Cole pitching well. And then, Mike, this is for you from John Percello Jr. My grandmother loved you, Mike Piazza. God bless her soul, Marge. Let's go Mets. I mean, how many times do you hear that when you go to Dodger Stadium or you now go to Citi Field and somebody walks up and says, Mike, my grandfather, my grandmother, my so-and-so, God bless her. They're not here, but they loved you.
That's so sweet. I mean, that's the one thing about baseball, and especially teams like the Mets, is the generational love. And I was watching something online recently, and this guy was taking his kids and sort of, he was saying, I'm indoctrinating them. I'm brainwashing them to be Mets fans. And he goes, I'm going to teach them a lifetime of disappointment. So it's funny. He was saying a joke in a way. It was like child abuse. He's like, because I'm teaching my kids to be Mets fans, I'm going to teach them a lifetime of disappointment. But yeah, that's the one thing about the Mets. Has always been an underdog team. Maybe not so much now with Steve, as the owner. But those traditions are great. And that's one thing that's great about baseball, is a tradition. The Yankees have always been, the upper, the Bronx and the Upper West Side, elite team. And the Mets have always been like that blue collar Queens team. So that's the great thing about it. Did that get his foot? Ouch.
Missed him.
Oh, it missed him, really?
So
Holmes
is on the pitch. Yeah, I caught him in the foot. So now there's a couple on. Is Aaron's going to go to the bullpen?
No, that's not Aaron.
No. Aaron came into the bullpen to bring in Holmes.
Well, Holmes came in. I've been watching this, pretty close. Holmes has been a dominant closer for the last 3 or 4 years.
I can't tell whether it hit his foot or not.
Check for shoe polish. Who is the manager that checked for shoe polish and they found shoe polish on the ball?
Oh,
do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
Was it Earl Weaver? I can't remember.
No, I don't think
I
it
want
was
to say
that
it's
long
Bobby.
ago.
Was it Bobby V?
Bobby Valentine, maybe.
I think it was older. I think it was years before. There was a World Series. One of the listeners watching.
It might have been Sparky.
No,
it sounds like no. I'm gonna have to think about that.
I think someone's got to know out there. So if you're watching, just send a text.
Kike.
All right. So what are you gonna do here, Mike?
2 big home runs last series.
Well, he had a triple. Is anybody bunt anymore? First and second, no outs. I mean, there's no way he's going to be bunt, right? He's going to be swinging. I mean,
he could be bunt.
Well, they're going to bring the first baseman in.
Well, the home team, you're better off tying. Obviously, when you're on the road, you kind of going for the win. I know that as Boone will attest to that. So the home team, you're better off tying because you have the last at bat.
Right.
But if you're on the road here, I'd just maybe take a chance the guy's swinging the bat.
Nope, he's going to square around.
That's a good bunt, too.
That's a good bunt.
That's a heck of a bunt right there.
Wow. Throwback.
Well,
that's very unsabermetric.
I think
Brett.
that's a great play. I think that's a great play in that position. Roberts obviously thinks he's got a guy at the plate that can handle the bunting situation. He trusts
That's the right play.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, look, first baseman right there. I mean, it's a great bunt too because, yeah, look at that, squared it up, just dead in the
PK's
ball.
been huge in this postseason. Hit 2
Yeah, he's a good ball
huge
player.
homers.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
that's on the hands. Uh-oh, that's fisticuffs. Wow.
So Smith's going to pop out. So now 2 outs,
Wow.
runners at second and third.
So you see how that situation there as a hitter, he was just, you're talking about slowing the game down. Yeah, he was just real anxious. Sometimes you just want to hurry up and get the at bat over, and you just, that was just, you got to take a pitch because, it got in his kitchen, man.
Well,
It's easier for us
he
to
hit the
say
sac
out
fly.
here. It's easier for us to say watching the game, but in that situation, he was obviously, the pitcher took a chance that he was going to be anxious and threw him a bastard pitch off the inside part of the plate and got in his kitchen and popped him up. That's tough.
So, by the way, Mike, people are going back and forth. Who was the iconic Mets catcher, you or Gary Carter? And the fans have decided it was you because you have better hair.
Well, I don't have as much of it now, but as the years go on. No, but Gary had the perm going on.
Oh, he was styling. He had some good lettuce.
The kid was unbelievable with the perm.
Yeah, he was awesome, man. I remember watching him. You know what's funny about Gary Carter is people don't realize that he was a high school pitcher, and Mel Didier, who was a scout for the Expos at the time, went to go see him in the minor leagues, and the manager wasn't playing him so much because he wasn't a great catcher. And he said, listen, you play that guy or you're fired. And when Mel Didier came to the Dodgers and I wasn't playing in the minor leagues as much, he told the manager the same story about Gary Carter in relation to me. So obviously I converted to catcher when I signed with the Dodgers, and I wasn't really getting that much playing time in the minors. And Mel Didier went to my minor league manager and said, play this guy, because obviously managers want to win, and college guys coming in obviously had a lot more experience than me. But yeah, I mean, that was an interesting story. And I love Gary. I played golf with him about a year before he passed away. He passed away from brain cancer. And what a sweet man. A great guy, great player, obviously, a lot of history. I mean, talk about playing in tough conditions in Montreal on that turf. But they had some ballers on that team. They had like Ellis Valentine and
Andre,
Al Oliver, Scoop.
Was Dawson on that team and Raines?
Yeah, he came up. Warren Cromartie.
Yes.
Chris Spire. They had Steve Rogers pitching. I mean, they used to battle the Phillies all the time. I remember as a kid where they played at Jerry Park before they played in the Olympic Stadium.
Park.
How about playing in that
Park
before
Jerry.
Olympic? That was
What's that,
unbelievable. How bad would it be playing in that yard before Olympic with the roof?
Ugh.
I mean,
But
that looked like. Go ahead.
You played in Olympic Stadium, though. I thought it was a good place to hit, actually, once they covered it up. And
it was great. It was loud. It was fast. Everything in the gap got to the wall.
It had a good backdrop.
That was the fastest turf going.
Yeah, when you squared it up there, the ball would travel out of there pretty crispy, man. It was good. But they had good teams, man. The 94 team, remember they had Larry Walker and Grissom.
Raines.
Yeah, Gredzolonic and
Gredzolonic.
I think that was the year we
first
struck.
baseman.
Man, that's a good question. Was it
Fletcher was behind the dish?
Yeah, Darren Fletcher. I remember, I played with Darren Fletcher in the minor leagues. When I converted to catcher, he was with the Dodgers, and he taught me a lot. He was a great guy. And was it Archie Cianfrocco? Remember that dude?
Might have been, yeah.
2 outs.
Canley's going to come in.
Wow.
I think they got out of it.
They got out of it.
Wow. That's a big inning there, man. Well,
wow.
That's big. And I guess the rules are changed. You don't have to see 3 hitters in the World Series, right? No. Holmes didn't face 3 hitters, or did he?
No.
I don't think Holmes did. Here's the thing with the Will Smith. Will Smith was in that same position, right on third, less than 2 outs, his last at bat. He got a break ball, hit a sacrifice fly to right, and the first pitch jams him on that in the same situation. So
there you go.
I think this, Booney, when you're really going well as a hitter, you're not making up your mind to swing before the guy releases the ball. When I was really locked in as a hitter, and I saw that ball out of his hand, I knew what was coming. I mean, I would just, if it was a ball inside, you just lift up your arms and let it pass. Mm-hmm. But when you're a little anxious and you're really pressing and you're like going, oh shit, I got to get a hit here. That's when you start thinking, all right, I'm going to cheat to this ball. I'm going to try to get to that bat, get that bat out in front.
That flinchy take.
That's when the hitter can lead, the pitcher can lead you right out of the strike zone. So, but listen,
hey Mike, they said that Cliff Floyd. They said Cliff Floyd was the first baseman for the Expos.
Oh, Cliff
94.
Yeah, that's what the fans are saying. And then a buddy of mine before we let you go, they said, Mike Piazza, we watched you at Sam Lynn Ballpark, in the ballpark that was facing backwards in Bakersfield.
Bakersfield, man, the Bakersfield Dodgers, and the sun used to set behind center field, and they had those desert winds because it was only like 360 to center field with a big high wall, but you couldn't go out of there deep, man, because the winds would be like 25 miles an hour. So memories, man. I enjoyed it, guys.
Mike, thank you so much.
I appreciate coming on, man. Thanks.
All right.
And I'll if I come to Italy, I'm gonna let you know.
Anytime, man. Let's go. Let's go break bread and crack a bottle of wine.
You got it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man.
Mike Piazza has been our special guest here on the podcast. That was fun. It was so great listening to him just kind of go through the hitters from the defensive side, Bret.
I've always loved Mike. He came in AAA, and he was starting to talk a little bit about his minor leagues. We came up in the minor leagues kind of together. And it was tough for him getting playing time until he was mentioned. One of his minor league coaches said, you got to let this kid play.
Yeah. When Didier came down.
No, I remember he came to, I was in AAA in Calgary, Canada. And
he was in Albuquerque.
Yeah. He came up about a month and maybe 6 weeks into the season. He came up from AA. He came into Calgary, and when he left Calgary, everybody was kind of, who is that guy? He established himself as one of the best hitters in the league. He went to the All-Star game and missing 6 weeks to start. Then the rest of it is history, the great big league career that he had. And I've always liked Mike. He's always been a great dude. And, he ended up getting to the Hall of Fame. Great hitter. Greatest hitting catcher of all time.
Absolutely. All right, so let's we're here at the bottom of the eighth inning. We might have one more guest join us here on the podcast, but Bret, tell me what you've seen so far. It's 2-1 ball game in. Let me just get your quick recap.
I'm watching this game and I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed how Flaherty pitched. It doesn't surprise me. Stanton stays hot. Hits the 2-run bomb to give him the lead, 2-1. And that was big. There's been a couple big at bats where the Dodgers haven't got it done. The runner on third, less than 2 out. Will Smith got it done right. But I think the story of the night was Garrett Cole up for the job? Obviously, he answered that call. And Flaherty, who just came off one of his worst outings,
turned it
around. And for all the people that wanted Yamamoto or a Walker Buehler to start game one because of Flaherty's last start, Doc Roberts, who's been living with him for a long time now, he made the right call. I was impressed how Flaherty pitched.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it was on the Fox pregame show I was watching. They were talking about, I think Jim Bowden was talking about it today as well on Sirius XM. This is the reason why Brian Cashman spent all that money for this moment in time right now. Garrett Cole got that contract and was brought to New York for a game like this tonight where the Yankees are back in the World Series and they're ready to go.
Yeah, no, that's Garrett Cole, Cy Young Award winner 2023. I mean, these are the games, and I didn't get to it with Mike. I wanted to talk to him about it. How important it is when you're managing a staff, and I don't mean managerial, when you're managing a staff from a catcher's perspective, how important is it that your horse, your ace, you get a win when he pitches from a psychological standpoint? Because let's say you're going with a 5-man rotation, your guy at the top of the rotation, Mike in I forget if in Los Angeles he had Hideo Nomo. I don't know if he had Pedro. I know he was in the minor leagues when Pedro was in the minor leagues, because Pedro was in Albuquerque. So I know he had caught Pedro, but I don't know. In New York, the guys he caught there, I think he finished in Oakland. He had a little brief stint in Miami, but I didn't get to that question.
And he played San Diego and Oakland. He finished up in Oakland.
And he was in Miami for like 2 seconds.
For like 2 seconds, right?
But I'm always
yeah.
interested from a catcher's perspective. How important is it for your guy, your number one guy, to come through and get the win, especially in a postseason scenario like a Garrett Cole? Like, how does the psyche change if Garrett Cole gives it up tonight and they lose game one with their horse? How does that change the perspective of the series?
Well, then you're going to look back. I got one. Seriously, how many horses do the Yankees have? One.
Rodon in past years has been. I'll tell you what, Rodon right now, and I always look at things from a right-handed perspective. Rodon with that, he's crossfiring and he's cutting it a little bit, but it's 95, it's 96, and he hits that spot inside. He makes it really tough on a right-hander right now. So Rodon potentially has top end of the rotation stuff. But
right.
Yeah, who is that bona fide closer? I mean, who's that bona fide number one top of the rotation postseason? I want him when the game's on the line. I think Garrett Cole's the only one on either team in this last series.
I think people have been talking about it the entire day. Is how many big horses do we have in this World Series? I've got Garrett Cole, and I've got who else?
For what?
On both staffs.
Both staffs. What are we talking about? We got Garrett Cole. I think he's the horse. I think Rodon's very capable. I think Schmidt has come a long way. He's going to be in the 3-hole. You got a Nestor Cortez and a Marcus Stroman who have been in that rotation all year. But I think what's going to have to happen with them is they're going to give you a 3-inning stint somewhere in there. They're not the typical reliever that'll give you one real max effort inning.
Yeah, they can go a little further.
Nestor's he's going to stretch out the game. So I look for Aaron to find a way to stretch out a game with him, stretch out a game with Stroman. And then in the fourth position, I think Aaron, and I haven't talked to him, I don't know how he set up his rotation, but I think the young kid Heel. He's got dominant stuff. If he's on, he can.
He might be that X factor, that swing guy that you need just in case. Now on the Dodgers side, who are my horses?
Well, I think Flaherty just answered all the critics tonight, by the way he came back and pitched. That was phenomenal. I've seen Yamamoto signs a big contract, comes over from Japan, got hurt. He had arm problems. He missed 2 months of the season. Since he's been back, he's been hit or miss. That closing game against the San Diego Padres, he was money. He's as good as you can be. His next outing, I think he went 2 1/3, 3 1/3. So you're kind of up in the air again. You don't know what you're going to get with Yamamoto. We've talked about Walker.
Somebody just said Walker Buehler, if healthy.
If healthy, right. I'm not giving up on Walker Buehler.
No.
But 2-3 years ago, Walker Buehler was a Garrett Cole type, top of the rotation guy. Now all of a sudden, coming off Tommy John, he's just coming off it. He wasn't that good in the regular season, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think this offseason to rest, get back, maybe we'll see that 2021 version of Walker Buehler next year. His last outing, he went 4 innings. He pitched great. But when you're talking about Walker Buehler, you're not talking about not 4 innings. You're talking about 7, 8 innings like a Garrett Cole gave you tonight.
And again, I just remind everybody, if you're just kind of tuning in or you're on YouTube and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? If I'm watching WFAN or I'm watching the Infinity Sports Network or Odyssey, Bret Boone podcast live. We're doing a World Series watch party. You can ask questions. We're monitoring the chat. So if you want to comment, we'll read your comments. Or if you have a question on the air, you ask us a question, we'll answer it for you right here on YouTube. And again, we've had some really great guests. I mean, sitting down, talking with Richie Sexton, and then Drew Bledsoe popped in for a little surprise cameo right there. And then we were able to talk with Chipper Jones for a while. And then Mike Piazza just put on a clinic of what he was thinking about while hitters are up there as he's behind the plate. So just to reset everything right now, folks, 2-1, heading to the middle of the 8th inning. It's the middle of the 8th, heading into the bottom of the 8th. And Shohei Ohtani will be up this inning, Brett. So that's the That's the matchup. That's the thing that everybody wanted to see. Judge, Ohtani, Yankees, Dodgers. I mean, this is a Hollywood script right now. 1-run ball game, and Ohtani is looming right there. It'll be Edman and Ohtani, and bets due up for the Dodgers.
And we are to the people that we put it out to. We're trying to get Tino on. He's at a wedding. I think his daughter's getting married. He's trying to fuss with it and get in and join us. So that's what I'm kind of not paying attention to you, Rich, right now.
I thought it was normal, like our podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Tino, see if he's going to come in. I know he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, no, if we get him,
your daughter's getting married. You can make it if you could make it. If not, I'll tend to understand. I won't give him too hard of a time. So we're
all right. Somebody wants to know.
Yeah,
Bret, I got a question for you. Does the Yankees winning the World Series make it less likely that Juan Soto will re-sign now that he's accomplished that goal? Great question. So
if they win the World Series,
does Juan Soto go, okay, got my ring, let me go get some money?
I think this, if you're Juan Soto, when you're going to sign a deal like him, obviously he's had the perfect year at the perfect time. He's in the postseason. That being said, you're playing for the Yankees. You're playing in a great city that absolutely loves you. Obviously, he's comfortable there. He likes the stadium. He likes the batter's box in New York. If New York comes at him with comparable money to all the other teams, why in the heck would you leave? They're gonna go for it every year. They're gonna try to get to the World Series every year. Why would you leave? So I think, like I said, perfect storm. Juan Soto came at the right time, had the big time year, right when he's a free agent in his walk year. But I think the Yankees, if they're comparable with the money, and if they can match the other team's money, I would say, why would you play anywhere else than for the New York Yankees? Probably the most famous franchise in the world.
You said you would have loved to be a Yankee.
And if the money's all the same, why would you not want to be on the biggest stage in baseball? So, but I think Soto's gonna play it close to the vest. He's gonna say, he's probably had a great time. When you go to a team, have an MVP year, and go to the World Series, and you're going to get hundreds of millions of dollars. Obviously, you've enjoyed your time there, but he's still got to posture a little bit from a negotiating angle and not say how much he loves New York. We'll talk about it later. That's the smart way to play.
Somebody did point out to me, Soto does have a ring. 2016. It seems like a bazillion years ago. 2019. It has the same ring that your dad has from the Washington Nationals.
Right.
So
5 years ago. He's 25, and it was 5 years ago he's winning a ring.
Okay, so here's the moment. Here's the moment we've all been waiting for, Bret. Your brother's got Kenley out there against Shohei Ohtani. I mean, this is Hollywood right here. Ohtani 0 for 3. Mike said maybe a little jumpy, playing in his first World Series, and this is the point where the kid goes up against Ohtani.
It hits it off the top of the wall.
You're calling it?
Yeah. Not going to be a homer. Barely not going to be a homer.
Did he get it all? Off the top of the wall, you're right. So Ohtani's in there with the double.
2 feet. I think my feed's a little ahead of you, Rich.
Yeah, you're a little. I'll take it. I was waiting for it. I wanted to see if it cleared or not. So he has the double. And now here's where things get a little tight for the Yankees.
Well, here's the thing. No, he advanced to third. The ball skipped away. Watch this.
Okay.
So he's on third, less than 2. This is what I've seen in the modern era. These are big at bats. We got to have a concept of what we're trying to do. We got to run on third, less than 2. Let's see where the infield plays. I would assume they're probably going to bring the infield up. I've got to know that as a player, as a hitter. How tough is this guy on me? Am I seeing the pitch as well? If I'm seeing it good, I'm comfortable in the box. I want the whole thing. I want the sacrifice fly. Now I get ahead in the count and in my favor. I want to hit something hard, maybe get a base hit. If quite the opposite, which I've been in those positions where I got a guy that's really coming down on me hard, I don't see his pitch as well. I've had minimal to little success. I got to find a way to touch this ball. Because if I touch it with the speed that's sitting at third base in Ohtani, and that's what I referenced earlier, I can hit a 16 hopper to the shortstop. If I touch it right here, that's a point for my team. That's a tie ball game. They're 1 for 2 in those situations, or 1 for 3 now. Let's see how they do with Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts last time up in this same situation, runner on third, less than 2 out. He waited. He got a slider in the middle of the plate. He hit a bullet. Chisholm made a nice play, and they didn't get the runner in. So this is the second time in a row he's coming up with a runner on third, less than 2 outs. I would say this, and I always used to hit like this as a hitter. If I came up in a situation, you hung me a breaking ball, and I smoked the ball somewhere, I know everybody's watching. I know that catcher knows that the last time I smoked a breaking ball, I'm probably going to sit on something hard, look for velocity, because they're thinking last time they hang him that breaking ball, he was all over it. Let's go to the fastball. So I'm going to go dead red if I'm Mookie Betts. I might be right. I might be wrong, but that's just how I'm thinking from a hitter's perspective.
All right, so they're going to go to the pen, bring in Luke Weaver, who this is that point where it's put up or shut up time, right?
I think Luke Weaver's done a phenomenal job. Everybody's talked about Clay Holmes, his stretch. He's had a tough, I'm not going to mince words. He's had some tough sledding down the stretch for the Yankees. He's been one of the best closers in baseball the last 3 or 4 years. And he had a rough second half for the Yankees, to the point where Aaron took him out of the closer role. He put this young kid Weaver in. Holmes has been better in other parts of the rotation, the 7th, 8th inning. They've been using him, 6th inning. This Weaver kid has moved in to that slot, and it's not easy. Anybody can't just slide in, especially when you're in the postseason. Now you're in the World Series. He's been cool as a cucumber. Let's see what happens here. In the first pitch, slider, the same pitch he hit last time. Now it's chess. You're playing chess right now if you're Mookie Betts and the catcher on what he's going to put down.
Okay, so Salon Sky says, can't walk Mookie because power bat Freddie Freeman is neck. Get Mookie and then walk Freeman. Then Teoscar Hernandez is behind him, is hitting 209. Somebody wants to know.
Oh, sorry. You're no, nothing happened.
Okay, you scared me for a second.
No, it's just a good pitch, and he called it a ball.
Okay, somebody said, Jared says, I love that Aaron has the guts to bring Luke Weaver in for multiple inning save. Good for him. And then Aaron says, all right, here comes the closer.
I told you he's coming at him hard because he smoked a breaking ball last time. What the fact that Aaron has confidence in him in this situation says something. Managers have to make these types.
And they're bringing the
decisions.
infield. And by the way, the infield is in.
Right. So we got a 1-2 count on Mookie Betts. And I won't commentate. That's the challenge of this setup, Rich, is everybody's not on the same page with their TV feed.
So as we're watching this again, Betts, then this is the guy that you want up there, and Aaron's going to go early. Betts is going to hit a sacrifice fly and score.
That's a hell of an at bat, and it went back to that. He started him off with a breaking ball, but then he went heater. Betts 2-strike hitting. That's why he's Mookie Betts. I mean, these are the situations. All he's thinking here is just get this ball in the air. I don't need to get it. Those are the greatest positions to be in. The pressure's on the pitcher. You don't need to get a base hit.
No.
To
especially because you're
right
home, right?
I can hit a pop-up, and I did a great job.
It looks like a line drive in the morning, right?
Exactly. Well, that was a line drive.
No, if you hit a pop-up, it looks like a line drive. Yeah. So the sacrifice fly will tie the ball game at 2 apiece.
Can't really, it's not like it gets any easier if you pitch around Betts. You still got to deal with this guy, Freeman.
Right.
Freeman, for me, is one of the
he already has a triple hitter.
Yeah, he's one of the great pure hitters of the game.
So he's going to fly out to center field.
Yeah, and that's 3 outs.
That's 3 outs.
This has been everything everybody's wished for as far as build up, to this series. 2-2 going into the 8th. What's better than that? Oh, I'm sorry, end of 8th. We're going to the 9th. Yeah,
we're heading into the 9th. No shame on the pitcher. Mookie Betts is a stud, according to Salon Sky. That should never have been traded for a bag of balls.
From Boston?
That's a Boston fan, yeah. That's a Boston fan right there. So there we go. Now we're going to go to the 9th inning.
You can think about it this way, Rich, with the runner on third, less than 2. There's great hitters in the game, and then there's hitters that are unbelievably really good hitters and situational hitters. You're never going to pitch around somebody to get to a John Olerud. And that John Olerud of his time is kind of I think a good comp for Freddie Freeman of 2024. These guys control the strike zone. It's tough to strike them out. They have an approach every at bat.
They're not going to expand.
Depending on the situation of the game is the approach they're going to have at the plate. And you're in trouble right there. If Ohtani gets a third, you got Mookie Betts up. You're going, all right, Mookie's hit 4 home runs in the last 6 postseason games, but I got Freddie Freeman, one of the best situational hitters in the world, on deck. How can I legitimize pitching around Mookie, maybe to set up the double play? Maybe that's a decent thought, but I think Freddie Freeman in that situation is too tough of an at bat when you just need a sacrifice fly to just pitch around Mookie Betts.
All right, so we've got coming up for the Yankees in the top of the 9th inning, Wells, Verdugo, and then Torres all scheduled to hit this half inning. So what's going on?
We'll see if Chipper's right when he said it was going to come down to not one of the big stars, right?
Right.
Even though Will Smith's kind of a star when it comes to the catching position, Muncy's had his star moments in the postseason. Teoscar Hernandez has been a 100-ribby guy for a while.
Right.
But he said it might not come down to the star. Verdugo, yeah, if you're going to talk about star power compared to Soto, Judge, and Stanton, Verdugo's not a star.
He's hitting in the number 9 hole. Wells in the number 9 hole, right?
Wells is a rookie. Volpe is a young shortstop, but he's had really good at-bats lately. And in the postseason, I think he's hitting 300+ coming into the World Series.
So what do you do right here? What's your approach? Because you're coming in.
I just got to get base runners. I got to put the pressure on the defense right now. I got to find any way I can to get on base if I'm these guys coming up.
But if you're Wells, you said he's a kid, right? Pressures. This is the World Series. How do you calm yourself down? How do you, you've taught me a lot about adrenaline and controlling your emotions and breathing.
You got to breathe. All the guys don't happen. We talked to Chipper earlier. That's one of the slowest heartbeats I've ever seen on a 22-year-old kid. I've never seen anything like it. That's why Chipper was Chipper, and there was one of them at the time. You don't just learn to control it like that and breathe. And when you're a young player, it takes a little practice. But Wells has had he's had decent amount of success to the point where he's taken the catching job away from Trevino. Trevino a couple years ago won the Platinum Glove, and Wells took his job. So he has had some success this year. It's been a little tough sledding in the postseason by far. This is where you learn. These are the big situations. Come up big. You learn how to breathe.
So it'll be, again, this World Series. We talked about it, Bret, coming into this, that it's going to be two teams are evenly matched, and we've gone through. We're 9th inning, we're tied at 2 apiece, and it's been some very good pitching and some situational hitting.
Yeah, the pitching to me it's been really good because every time the opposing pitcher's they've gotten out of trouble when they've gotten into trouble. I'm really impressed with that matchup tonight.
So Wells is going to ground out one away. And now you talk about those big moments, and it's interesting when you hear Chipper talk about it, because everybody else talks about, there's that one guy that we never thought of was going to be the star of the World Series. The David Eckstein's winning the World Series MVP, but Chipper put it beautifully, because there's just that moment. Everybody knows what the big stars are going to do. I just need that one guy, that one extra bat to come up in that situation and come through with situational hitting.
Well, you think of the last series for the Dodgers. If you didn't have Kike Hernandez and Edman on that team, you're not playing in the World Series. Those are the two guys that came up big. Kike came up twice with 2 huge homers. Edmonds in the final games drives in 4, hits a 2-run homer. That's what postseason's about. It's about unsung heroes, guys that don't have the headlines during the season coming through and having their moment on the big stage.
So Verdugo's going to ground out. So now two-way ninth inning, and the guy that has been really the catalyst for a lot of what the Yankees have been doing, Torres up.
Well, you get Torres. He gets on base right here. He gives Soto an opportunity with a runner on base. That's all we're looking. Worst case scenario is Torres or Soto's leading off next inning, but it'd be he's thinking it'd be pretty good to give Soto a shot with a runner on base. We saw how that last series ended in that kind of iconic at bat with Soto, going back and forth with the pitcher, then hitting the big home run to kind of seal the deal.
This is going to be a good World Series. This is going to be one where it's funny that just so evenly matched and mirror images of each other in a lot of different ways.
Oh, wow.
I think you're a touch ahead of me, so tell me.
I'm not telling you. Hold on. Oh, yeah, that's a double.
So Torres puts one, hits it into left field. The fan reached over. The fan reached over.
That's a double.
That's a ground rule double. Fan
But
reached over.
Right, but you've got to challenge it, and then it comes down to the challenge, guys watching. Is it enough to overturn it? Always, a lot of times I think it'll be overturned, and it's not. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm seeing something different than the guys in New York are seeing. But let me go through the emotion as a hitter right there.
Because he looked, he had that little hop, like, I think I got it.
Well, he had that. I'm not sure it's close hop. If I catch the right wind pattern, it might sneak out of here. But he knew that's not for sure a homer. Then he sees it in the stands. The amount of emotion going through your body in that situation is unbelievable. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, it might be a double. Still better than the left fielder catching it. But I think this is going to be a double.
So now they'll go back to the replay officials. Back, I think they're in Secaucus.
I think this is going to be a double.
Yeah, this has got to be a double. So
I'd be surprised.
So the second base umpire reached over.
Oh, it is.
Clasped his hand. So that's a ground rule double for fan interference.
Okay, so it's not even a replay. I got you.
Yeah. So that'll be the double. So Torres does his job, right? We talked about it. He's been the catalyst. So he's going to have the double. That brings up Juan Soto with an opportunity, runners in scoring position at the top of the ninth inning. If you're New York, if you're Aaron, you can't ask for anything else, right?
Well, I think what you're going to see right here with the righty, I think they're going to be. They saw that dramatic home run that he hit in. They're gonna either walk him or it's going to be an intentional walk.
Would you even mess around with unintentionally walking him?
I'll tell you what. I don't know that I have what we call cojones.
The intestinal fortitude, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say.
Walk a man to get to one Aaron Judge, the greatest hitter on the planet.
Oh, what do you think Dave Roberts is thinking? Do I face Soto? Do I face Aaron Judge? Do I face Soto? Do I face the American League MVP to be with Kopech up on the mound?
Let me tell you this. Because I think they're gonna walk Soto. I'll tell you a story. Talking about getting your confidence. And okay, Edgar Martinez, one of my best friends in the game. Me and him were really close my time in Seattle. I learned so much from him. One day, I was hot as a firecracker. They intentionally walked me to get to Edgar. I was like a kid in a candy shop on first base. Like, they walked me to pitch to Edgar Martinez, and Edgar was pissed. He ends up hitting a double, and I came back after the game, and I said, how'd that feel? He goes, yeah. And he ended up hitting a double. But the feeling you have when they walk somebody to get to one of the great hitters of my time, like for me, for a moment, I was having a moment. I'm like, they just walked. I was talking to myself at first. I'm like, they just walked me to get to Edgar. They just walked, and I looked at Edgar, and now I had something on him. Like, they don't even want to face me. They'd rather face a scrub.
I'm so good right now. They don't
Oh,
want any piece of me
it
yet.
was great.
Yeah.
No, I would say they put Soto on for a one. As great as Soto is, nobody walks anybody to get to Aaron Judge. And
to
this
Aaron
might
Judge.
happen right here.
Wow. All right. So this is the game right here. So Judge 1 for 4 on the night with 3 strikeouts. And they didn't even mess around. There was no intentional walk. They didn't even mess around. They just said, let's go get him. So runners at first. So Torres has the double on fan interference. Soto gets intentionally walked, and we set it up 2-way, 9th inning.
I don't know either, though, Rich, in this situation. I understand the logic behind Doc and what he's thinking. They punched out Aaron Judge 3 times tonight. Hasn't looked good. Juan Soto's looked great all postseason, but man.
Right. And they're going to go to the pen as well.
Yeah, I find with those great players, they just have, I don't know, they have a knack when you do something like this to get you.
Well, okay.
I don't know. I can't question it. I have no answer for this situation. You got Soto, you got Judge. All right, Judge punched out. It's almost like you flip a coin, and you can't be wrong either way.
Hey, this just gives me things to talk about tomorrow on the Infinity Sports Network. Does Dave Roberts make the right move? Because he's either going to look like a genius that you went after Judge, or you're going to look like, what in the world are you doing? You're setting him up.
I don't think there's a win situation either way. The win situation is getting the out. Then you don't have to answer the question. Doesn't matter. It's a
right
point.
So on television, they're showing shades of Jeffrey Mayer. Is that the kid's name? They reached over with Derek Jeter.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
in Baltimore.
So
yeah,
here we go. This is why this is the World Series everybody wanted to see. We talked about it, Ohtani. We've talked about it, Judge, and now it's Judge with the opportunity for the Yankees.
That's 3 sliders in a row. Training sliders, tough. It's like it breaks twice. A guy that I would compare him to in my generation, it was the closer for the Angels, K-Rod.
Oh.
It's like it breaks twice. Trainings looks like it breaks twice.
Because it starts and then
ooh. That's 4 in a row.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's got another 2 or 3 inches to the normal slider.
Right. So what do you do if you're Judge right here and he's just feeding you nothing but that pitch?
It's a chess match. You can't take a heater down the middle, so you got 2 strikes. You got to not miss the slider, but be on the heater, at least good enough to foul it off. Like right there. Gave him a heater. He was waiting for it. He was ready.
Right.
Just missed it. So Roberts looks like he did the right thing.
Good job, David. Yeah, he's going to get Judge to pop out to short.
Yeah.
And we're going to head to the bottom of the 9th inning.
And I think with the teams are this evenly matched. This is where the slight advantage comes to the home field advantage, is this exact scenario right here. And it's not a huge advantage. I never minded whether I was on the road or at home.
Right.
But if there's just that little whisper of advantage for one side, it comes down to games like this.
And guess who's up for the Los Angeles Dodgers?
I would say
you're going to have Hernandez, Muncy, and Kike.
Is it Kike or Teoscar?
Teoscar is going to lead off, then Muncy, then Kike.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, that's the second tier right there. That's the second tier.
That's what Chipper was talking about, those guys right there.
Yeah.
You know, of course, as you look over there, it's a different lineup. You know, when you've got 1, 2, 3, Teoscar is hitting the number 4 hole Muncy, but then Kike, I think, has been that difference maker for the
I'll tell you
Dodgers.
what, and you talk about that confidence factor going into these postseason games, what Kike's done earlier, and I think his just long-standing, his tenure with the LA Dodgers for
Right.
years.
He's
and
been
years,
there before.
He's got a lot of postseason experience, and he feeds off the energy and success. He's feeling pretty good right now. He already hit a double down a right field line. He already scored the first run for the Dodgers tonight. He's got a big hit already. So a guy like Kike, the more I watch him, and I've watched him through the years, he scares you when he gets to the postseason. Everybody's talking about Ohtani and Betts and Freeman and Teoscar, and Kike is the one that's ripping your heart out.
Well, the kid's going to have to go out there and get the 4 outs to send us into extras, right?
He's got 3 to go. Weaver's done a great job. I mean, no matter what happens here, from my perspective, Weaver's been great. He's been asked to take over that closer role late in the season, something he's never done before, not at the big league level, let alone in the Bronx, and he's done a tremendous job. He's going to be tested right now. He gets through this test. That's about as much probably Aaron could expect when he handed him the job. Say, Aaron, this is what we're going to give you, the future of Weaver. He's going to do this, this, and this, and then he's going to give you a 4-out save against the LA Dodgers in the World Series.
In game 1 of the World
and
Series.
I think if you told Aaron that back then when he was making that closer change, I think he would have taken it. But he hasn't got the save out yet.
Okay, Booney.
He hasn't got the 4 outs yet.
All right, Booney, help me out here. Do you hear, like, when you're walking up there and the crowd's going crazy, it's the bottom of the 9th inning, tie score, game 1 of the World Series. What do you hear as a hitter as you're walking up there? When do things go quiet in your head as you jump into the box?
It probably depends that are you hot or are you not?
Okay.
You know? I think with experience, you have the ability to silence the crowd. I know during the regular season, you really don't hear much. If you're feeling good, if you're swinging pretty good, it's the regular season. You can really tune it out. You know, it's on the road. You might hear it a little more, but it's almost like I don't know how to say it. They're giving you props because they're booing you, or
right?
They're telling you. That's almost like a feather in your cap when you're on the road. But to be honest with you, it comes with experience. It just comes with repetition. It comes with just going through it for a long enough time to where you have the ability. You go up there, it's just your job. It's just what you do, and you have the ability to tune it out for the most part.
So these two are going to battle.
Oh, so the postseason, there is no.
They throw that rule out the window.
That rule's gone.
Okay.
So we could be here all night. Buckle up.
Buckle up. Here we go. But this is a big tipping point of the game for Weaver. And again, Teoscar Hernandez, that's a legitimate RBI guy. I always notice how your brother goes from chewing sunflower seeds for a couple innings, then he goes to the gum, then he goes back to the seeds.
You got to have a formula as a player, as a uniform personnel. You got to have something you do.
So Weaver's going to get Hernandez for the first out, and then he has Muncy coming up next. You notice, hey, your brother wore a jersey for the lineups. I think that's the first time I've seen him wear a jersey all season long.
Well, he probably does it opening day.
Yeah. And then he went and took it off, put the hoodie back on.
Everybody's got their thing. Bobby Cox used to wear spikes. Like not turf shoes, not rubber.
Spike, like the click, click, click.
Spike, click, click. It's just what he did. Dusty, the wristbands.
Yeah, and the toothpick.
Yeah.
Boy, this is a big bat right here.
through the years with the Dodgers, I had Max Muncy in the minor leagues with Oakland when I was a special assistant over there.
He's been on
Really
our
good hit.
podcast.
Yeah, really good hitter, controlled the strike zone. He's really turned into, I never thought he was going to be a 30-plus home run guy. And some guys, it clicks for him late. He's had some big home runs for those Dodgers through the years. There he is, Kike, on deck.
Looming on deck.
Ooh. He got away with one there. Change up middle of the plate. Muncy knew it. And he said right there, he was mad at the location of that pitch. He just left the middle. He knew he got away with one.
So as Muncy pops out to second, now it's Kike. Bottom of the ninth inning, tie score, Dodger Stadium. How mad are you at yourself when you do that? You just saw him look and
Well, when you get a fat one and you just get it off the barrel a little bit and you want it back, but part of the game.
So now it'll be up to Kike. And of course, if you're the Yankees, you want to extend this thing, and we'll go 10 innings. We don't mind. The USC football game is going to have to wait, Brett.
What time's SC?
USC just kicked off.
Did they?
Yeah.
Who are they playing this week?
Rutgers. So it's little
Rutgers. Yeah.
New York, LA.
Wow.
Well, there you go. We're going into extras, Brett. Kike is going to fly out to Verdugo, so we get free baseball.
Wow.
Good job by Weaver.
Can you carry this train for?
I think I just might be able to.
I need you to rattle off some stats. Give me about 90 seconds. I will return.
Absolutely. All right. So for those of you that are wondering, and a diving play by Verdugo to get that one, that was a heck of a run and a dive. Goes belly out to catch that baseball with this red, white, and green glove of the colors of the Mexican flag. So now we're going to go to the ninth inning. Wow, what a ball game tonight. So those of you that are watching on YouTube on WFAN's channel or the Infinity Sports Network or on Odyssey or, of course, the Bret Boone channel, I'm Rich Herrera along with Bret Boone. We're having a watch party. If you want to comment, we've been reading your comments and replying to them all night long. So put a comment in, and I've got the screen open right here. And we will answer your questions, but we're going to head to the top of the 10th inning, New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers. And what a ball game we've seen so far. In the contest, it really comes down to some timely hitting. So if those of you that are just jumping on right now, if you're doing something, Will Smith had a sacrifice fly in the bottom of the fifth inning for the first score, making the Dodgers 1-0. And then Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run with one on to make it 2-1. And then the eighth inning, Mookie Betts with a sac fly to score Shohei Ohtani. And now we're knotted at 2 apiece as we head to the bottom of the ninth inning. So this World Series, we've talked about it. And for those of you that missed it, had some great guests. Originally, we were going to have Ron Cey on the live stream, but he wasn't able to make it. So we had Richie Sexton jump in. And then we had Drew Bledsoe jump in as a surprise guest on the show so far. Then we had a real nice conversation with Chipper Jones. Mike Piazza joined us, and Tino Martinez is supposed to be, but he's at his daughter's rehearsal dinner. So we'll see if we can get him. If not, we'll get him back on the podcast again real soon.
Tino will hear about it from me.
Tino's a good guy, but
I'll tell you what, though, it's right now. The stories are great, but now this is kind of intriguing.
Oh, this is awesome right now. So, I mean, this is the network's.
He's going to keep throwing that breaking ball. That breaks twice.
Yeah. Why? I mean, listen, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So do up for the Yankees against Stanton, Chisholm, and Rizzo. Is that what you call jelly legging? When you go and you kind of not flinch, but you just kind of
You could call it that. Do you see that? You see how Stanton's aware of that slider. He's aware that it's coming, and he just can't quite reach it. And Stanton's been as hot as anybody on the field right now. I'm telling you, it's like that ball breaks twice. And the only guy I can think of is Rodriguez from the Angels in the early 2000s, where his break ball, I saw it, I sat on it, I got it, and I missed it by a half a foot.
And when he's throwing that pitch, you know where it's going, but there's just nothing. Is there anything you could do?
Breaking. It just breaks more than everybody else's. It's bizarre. And I have never faced him, so I don't know. That's just the appearance I get when I put my eyes on him. And I've been watching him the last few series.
So Chisholm for the Yankees.
I mean, I think that's a good sign for the Yankees right there. He's got 2 hits. Chisholm's had a really tough time in this postseason. He's been a great player for the Yankees down the stretch. Great acquisition at the trade deadline. But in the postseason, he's kind of been absent. It's good to see him in game 1 getting a couple knocks. If you could get him going, he's a big weapon to have that you haven't had in the past series.
Right. Well, Jim Bowden was talking on Sirius XM today about the decision that Aaron made along with Cash. When you got him, you thought, okay, where am I going to play him? Am I going to play him at second, or am I going to move him over to third? And second baseman for the Yankees has been so locked in that leave him there, leave Torres where he is, and put Chisholm at third. And he's not a natural third baseman. So he's had a couple good plays tonight. So, the ball seems to find people and they don't want it, but this is a good game for him.
Well, I think it came down to a decision where who could handle the position switch easier. And I think it came down to he thought Chisholm with his athleticism could handle third base playing out of position, and it's paid off. I agree with you. We've always talked about the Yankees being a little bit below average defensively because you got Chisholm at third. The more I watch Chisholm, I haven't seen him make a mistake over at third. Now, I haven't seen every game, but I just assume he's out of position. He doesn't play third every this is the first time he's been playing third base. But every time I see him play, he makes a great play. So maybe it is his position.
So Chisholm gets a stolen base, puts himself in scoring position, and wow, this thing is fun. Jared says, wish you could get a stream of the game on the screen and keep switching back and forth. You guys are much better than the Fox broadcast. Smoltz is a teammate of yours, so I won't ask you to comment on that one.
I like Smoltz. I think
and he's been on the podcast as well before.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best out there as far as giving you. I really like listening from the pitcher's perspective and the thought process because I was always on the opposite end of that, trying to play that game with the pitcher and the catcher in certain situations because there are certain catchers out there would think with me too. That's when I didn't like it because now I'm battling two different entities. That pitcher, his thought process, what he's thinking, reading my body language. Now I got a catcher doing it. Now I'm just, all right, pick one.
So Kevin Conley says, isn't this what the World Series are made of? Absolutely. I mean, this thing is living up to expectations. So Rizzo's going to get the intentional walk, by the way. So now we've got 2 on for Volpe. So the kid comes up.
Volpe's had a good postseason.
Yeah.
Volpe's had a good postseason. But
that's a huge steal for Chisholm right there as well.
Well, it enabled them to walk Rizzo. I think they're thinking training slider against a right-handed hitter. They'll take their chances.
So what do you whisper? What do you whisper into Volpe's ear here then?
I'd get up on the plate
before it gets that second break. Almost like a knuckleball.
Yeah, almost like I'd face a left-hander that's kind of throwing change-ups away from me. I get up and on the plate and try to catch it before the big part of the break.
And if you're training, do you throw anything other than that sweeper slider?
Now, here's the thing. The guys like this in the past, the real astute guys, they see me move up in the box and on the plate. he might pump me heaters inside because he knows what I'm doing. Those are the guys I got to worry about, the guys that are really watching and thinking with me. That Braves crew of the 90s. Now that is huge right there. Now we get it back into it. He just got to touch it mode. He's got to find a way to get this runner in from third at all costs.
So Chisholm's going to steal the bag. So now I got runners at first and third.
That's a big moment right there.
All right. So can I run the Billy Martin safety squeeze right here? Is that in the Yankees bag?
Well, good call,
because that's an indefensible play. You know what I'm talking about? The safety squeeze right here.
Bunts aren't really a big thing in the big leagues right now, but
so
maybe it was in his mind right there.
Do you know where that comes from? That safety squeeze that Joe Madden ran for all those years?
No. If you can
he offered at him.
Play. Yeah.
So Billy Martin, when he was the manager of the New York Yankees against the Boston Red Sox, if he had first and third, less than 2 out, he'd run that safety squeeze because you can't defend it because he doesn't break, and it's a safety squeeze, not a suicide squeeze. There's just no way to defend it if he gets the bunt down, and if he doesn't get the bunt down, it's a safety, so you're okay. And Billy Martin used to run that against the Boston Red Sox all the time.
Wow.
So there you go.
Did you get the play?
I got it.
And Edman couldn't get it out of his glove, so that eliminated the double play.
Oh.
If he flips it to him right here,
look at
nullified the double play. Because if he can flip it to him, that's a double play right there. They're out of the inning.
They're out of the inning. And he just came up to his knees and couldn't get that out of his glove clean. Oh, what a heartbreak for the Yankees. What a heartbreak for the Dodgers. Thrilling moment for the Yankees right there, Bret.
Well, that's what happens when you put the ball in play. And that was a good AB. I mean, he hit that ball hard up the middle, found a fielder, but it worked out for him. And that's all you want to do. You can't assume a double play. That's a ribby, and it's 3-2.
Wow. And for Tommy Edman, who'd been the
I'll tell you
MVP.
what, Jazz Chisholm, if this game stays 3-2, Chisholm just kind of single-handedly won that game for him, stole second and third.
And that's that athleticism that they went out and got when they went to go make that trade. You're like, okay, how's he going to fit in with the New York Yankees? But I read some interviews that, your brothers embraced him, let him be himself, put him at third, put him in situations. That's huge. That's huge right there. So now the Yankees still aren't done here with 2 away. They got that runner in scoring position as Volpe picks up that bag.
Well,
so Wells is going to get called out on strike. Trenton just gives up the 1, but that's enough to give the Yankees the lead going into the bottom of the 10th inning, Bret.
That's a tough earned run right there for him. I mean, even with Edmonds there, you hit him that ball 9 out of 10 times, he turns it over. And that particular one, he bobbled, and it's the difference in a run. It might be a difference in the game. Like I said, Chisholm having the rough postseason till this point, 2 knocks, but stealing second and third right there. That's as big as it gets if this score stays 3-2. Who are they going to, Rich? Who are they going to go to? I say they're going to go to Cousins.
Oh boy. Why do you think
Well,
Cousins?
Holmes is out.
Holmes is out.
Weaver's pitched to 4. Canley's been in, hasn't he?
Canley's been in.
Yeah, it's got to go to Cousins.
Well, here, I'll give you the pitching lines right now. Cole
Who they going
goes 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run. It was earned, 4 strikeouts. Holmes, 2/3 of an innings, zeros across the board. Canley, 2/3 of an innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 run. Weaver does his job, goes 1 2/3, zeros across the board.
Who's in now?
Who are they bringing in? I'm still in a commercial break, so they're going to. Yep, you're right. They're going to bring in Jake Cousins.
Yeah.
And for Cousins, he'll face the bottom part of the Dodger lineup. So he's got Smith, Lux, and Edman.
Cousins was really good last time out. But he's got a I don't know how many innings he's pitched in the postseason. I think 3 or so.
Not a lot of work.
Last time out, Cousins was good. But I only think he faced 2 batters.
Well, Aaron's going to call on him to bring this one home. What do you think your mom's doing right now, Bret?
Mom she's a little bit stressed. But she's been here, done that before. She knows. She still gets nervous for Aaron, without a doubt.
Well, we were talking about that there was a Boone contingent at the game.
Oh, I'm sure. We've got Savannah Boone leading the way. You got Jakey Boone. You got Sergo Boone, Bella Boone, which is Aaron's daughter and son. You've got Laura Boone, Aaron's wife. Did I miss anybody? And you got Judah Boone.
And Judah Boone.
Isaiah's on his way up to L.A. to join him for tomorrow night's game.
So how big is Jazz Chisholm right now for the New York Yankees? Again, a lot of people are like, okay, I don't get when we're going to make this move, because Bret, we talked about it. There wasn't that one big guy that you got at the trade deadline, but boy, what a contribution he has here late in the ball game, and then defensively as well. He had a couple rocket shots at him.
No, he's done a great job at third. Much better. Like I said, I think the New York Yankees, when they got Jazz Chisholm, they knew they were getting a good player, but I think he's exceeded expectations. There's 1 out.
1 out. There you go.
Gavin Lux.
Oh, by the way, just in case you and your brother are wondering, because this isn't the only New York or Southern California tri-state contest tonight, the Trojans are leading 7-0 over Rutgers in the first quarter.
Trojans been having a little rough sledding early in the season.
So Smith's going to fly out. That'll bring up Lux and, again, Edman, third hitter scheduled. Big moment for Cousins, Bret.
Well, what you don't want to do is get to Ohtani, get back to the top of and give him a shot. He hasn't done anything tonight, or wait a minute, he has. He had a double.
He had a double.
You don't want to get it to Ohtani.
I don't care. I don't want to see. If I'm the Yankees, I don't want to see him at all. At all.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good call. I think that's a good call.
So Lux is going to walk.
So now, well, stay out of a double play. Ohtani's going to get to the plate. I'm thinking they're going to bring in Rich Hill if it gets to an Ohtani situation.
So Cousins lost him after getting the first out. So now, yeah, Edman and then Shohei Ohtani. So we talked about, big moments, big time players, big time plays is what they say in college football. So Ohtani standing out there looming.
Well, his last at bat, he came 2 feet away from hitting a homer.
So they've got Nestor Cortez up there as well in the bullpen. And they both look like they're warmed up, ready to go.
I was really interested how Aaron was going to use Nestor. Was he going to use him in a high leverage situation, or was he going to use him to bridge the gap from starter to reliever, like in a 3-inning stint?
Right.
Obviously, he's got him up, but I think is Nestor up and is Rich Hill up?
Yeah, they're both up.
Be interesting who he goes to. Nestor hasn't pitched it since the regular season.
Right. And Hill's got some big outs for the Yankees this postseason.
Yeah, he has. Hill's been great. He has sub 1.6 ERA in the postseason.
So Broadway and Hollywood both sitting on the edge of their seats.
Edman's coming off Game 6 against the Mets. He was the hero.
Right.
Pretty good pitch. They're going to say it's off the plate. I love this World Series coverage on Fox. I love it. Well, now they put the box up there, but they don't have the box up there.
It's not the box isn't highlighted. It's just kind of a
right. It's kind of a dull box.
Yeah. And if you ever listen to our podcast, and both Bret and I have shown our dismay for people that worry about that box because it's not the strike man that the umpires are graded upon. Entertainment purposes only, Bret.
Oh.
So Edman's going to single on the ground ball. So now here you go, Bret Boone.
Yeah, Mookie's hot. Mookie's on deck. You're going to bring in the lefty right here to face Ohtani, and you just got to take your chance. You got to be careful with him, but you can't walk him. You can't. This is a tough spot.
I mean, he went and slid, tried to smother that ball, just kicked out from his gloves. And now
I'm interested who Aaron goes to here, Nestor or Hill. I'm guessing Hill.
I would get. Can you go to Nestor in this situation? And he hasn't thrown for a long time. And by the way, that was Cabrera at second base.
Yeah. Wow. It's Nestor.
So he's going to go to Nestor. All right, Bret.
Ooh. I'll tell you, guys on the ground, guys. We can sit here. It's easy to sit here. I think Mike Piazza referenced it. It's simple sitting here on the couch in our chair, having big opinions and not having to make that decision. But you got to, in this deep in the season, this deep in the postseason, the World Series is as deep as you can get. You got to kind of trust the guys on the ground, the guys in the bullpen. Guys been watching Nestor throw his pens, his sides, how electric his stuff is to make this decision right here. On the surface, say, oh, Nestor hasn't pitched. It seems like the wrong move, but we're not there with them every day seeing what Nestor's got right now. We're about to see.
Nestor's been on the podcast as well. We've watched him, and there's times where he's been lights out for the Yankees, and there's times where he's struggled. But boy,
You know what I think they're thinking in this situation? If he's got to face Ohtani and Betts,
right.
he likes Nestor's chances against Betts better than Rich Hill.
So
he wants to bring in Hill for one batter. See what I'm saying? Whereas Nestor can go longer.
Right.
That's what I think the thought process is there. It's a tough situation no matter what coming in this situation to face Ohtani. But you're going to pick a guy as, okay, if we lose Ohtani, if Ohtani gets on base,
don't throw him a cookie.
Who would I rather have out there to pitch to Betts without making a pitching change? I think that's where the decision's made.
So I can let Nestor go a little bit deeper than Hill.
Right.
Chris Taylor is going to come in and run for Gavin Lux, by the way. So is this everything you thought it would be, Bret?
It's a little longer than I thought it'd be, Rich.
Well, I was going to say it was going along at a really good clip. And then you know the rule, don't you? Don't ever say, wow, this game's really, and you know the rest of the words, because as soon as you say that, you get a 5-hour game.
We got a good game, though. You know, and it's been nice to be able to concentrate fully on it and just kind of have some banter back and forth. But I like having the guys on, too. I think it breaks up the monotony. It gives the fans a little different feel. You know, this hybrid formula that we have here set up. So you can get some insight. It's cool to get some Piazza from a catcher's perspective. What are you thinking? You know, Chipper, I think that's great. Listening to Richie and talking about his journey.
So, by the way, Aaron went from the sunflower seeds. Now he's chewing gum. And let me just get a little plug in for our podcast for those of you that are watching us on the WFAN YouTube channel and the Infinity Sports Network channel. Bret Boone has a podcast he's been doing about 4 or 5 years. It's available on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcast. Great guest, 3 shows a week. So please, if you get a chance, take a listen and subscribe. So Nestor's going to come in and he's going to get Ohtani to fly out into foul territory.
I'll tell you what, that move looks pretty good about now, doesn't it? Well, he's still got one more to get.
He's still got one more to get. How about Verdugo going into the stands and then having the presence of mind to rip and jump back out?
Well, I think they move up a base automatically because you went into the bleachers. So it goes from first and second to second and third.
Second and third. There you go.
Now you have the option.
Why would I throw to Betts right here when I got
to
Freeman
get to
on?
Freeman and go left on left?
Yeah. So
that's why. Yeah. Well, he didn't know if he was going to have that scenario, so you'd rather have Nestor in there. Now he has the option of putting Mookie on and going after Freddie.
Well, and now you
no. Here we go. It's not second and third. I thought he awarded him third base. I'm wrong. So it's first and second. No,
first and second.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
They're intentionally walking Mookie Betts.
Second and third.
Second and third. Now I'm going to walk Mookie Betts.
This is the problem, not being in real time. I've got a bunch of different things going on. I'm looking at arrows on the Fox feed. They're not giving me the correct. I swear it was second and third with a base open. So, yeah, obviously you walk Betts to get to Freddie. To get to Freddie Freeman to get the lefty matchup.
Allen had said, Ohtani walks it off. It's okay.
Dan Levy's on there.
Let me look. Stone Sky says loading bases for Freeman is crazy logic.
I don't think so. I agree with the move. Got to take your chances.
We go lefty, right? And you know what? If you've got a guy like Nestor Cortez, you're going to let him choose. Oh, boy.
Wow. I'll tell you what.
So Freddie Freeman's going to hit the grand slam.
What do you do?
The bottom of the 10th inning, first pitch. He hits one a mile deep, no doubter, and the crowd at Dodger Stadium is going nuts. The Dodgers win
Wow.
6-3. Wow.
That's an unbelievable first game of the. If that's what we're in for, I think fans are going to appreciate this World Series. Unbelievable, and that's where the star power comes in. It's like, what do? Do you pitch to Betts? Do you pitch to Freeman? The better
Pick your
of two
poison.
evils. Betts is hot as a firecracker. Freeman's coming off a hurt foot. The lefty. There's no right, there's no wrong answer there, and it's like, I don't know what you do. You're going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't. But
Right.
if that's the level of World Series we're going to have going forward, I think it lived up to the hype tonight.
Aaron's gonna get second guessed for that, but
Sure.
it's
That's
pick your poison.
That's a part of being the skipper,
Right. It's pick your poison because
if it works out, you're brilliant. If it doesn't, but let me put you in that scenario. What do you do?
Do I face Betts on MVP
I would have faced a Betts. Come on. Betts he's hit 2 bullets tonight. He hit 4 home runs in the previous series. He's righty on lefty. There's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. But yes, you're going to get criticized. Of course you are. You get to the World Series, and that's part of being the skipper.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, that was a great game. That was a great game.
And Freddie Freeman, who had that ankle, and we were wondering about it. He had that triple in the beginning of the ball game, and
wow,
he'll be the player of the game.
That's what great players
hits
do.
A bomb.
Yeah. Well, Rich.
Yeah. Give me your final thoughts. Wrap things up for me.
Final thoughts. I thought, like I said, I've already said it. I think that if that's what we're in for in this East Coast, West Coast World Series, man, this is going to go be one for the ages. Star power galore. The key to this thing for the Dodgers, I think, was Flaherty coming out pitching the way he did after his last outing. I don't know how many people expected that. Maybe Doc Roberts did. That being said, Garrett Cole did everything I expected him to do. Pitched a great game. It was just a great game.
Yeah.
It was really a well-played game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the Dodgers will take a 2-1 lead. Or excuse me, 1-0 lead. 1-0 lead in this World Series. We want to thank everybody for making this possible. A special thanks to WFAN for letting us take over their YouTube feed, Odyssey Sports, and the Infinity Sports Network as well. So we want to thank everybody for helping us out, letting us do this. It's been fun. We'll let you know if we get to do this again. But Bret, I enjoyed it. And again, special thanks to Richie Sexton, Chipper Jones, Mike Piazza, and Tino didn't make it, but to Chipper, Mike Piazza, and Richie Sexton for joining us. I think I got everybody, right?
I think you got him.
All right. Tomorrow I'll be back on the radio on the Infinity Sports Network. Bret Boone will join us, and we'll have a recap of this ball game. So until then, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great night.